everybody out there in comic book land? My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're listening to this, you can only be here for one reason. That's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you by Comic Book Clique. And as you know, I am never alone. Sir, please introduce yourself.
I am your tragic backstory, Gregory Thomas, aka GT Rebirth.
DT Rebirth is here in studio, and Rebirth is the name of the game today, because we're going to be talking about the trials and tribulations of a young woman named Carol Danvers and how she becomes the what do you call it? The I can't call her a box office a smash right now, but seemingly, headlines. If you've lived under a rock, Captain Marvel is the next film to come out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and she has literally been pointed to as what's going to answer our Thanos problem.
Yes.
Going forward. So we thought it'd be a good idea to do a deep dive into the character, what makes her who we see her as in the upcoming film, and the ride that it took for her to get there, because this character has been through some stuff. But before we get into what makes Captain Marvel, did you have any history with the character in general? Like, where do you remember first seeing Captain or Miss Marvel?
I'd say my first experience with Carol Danvers is probably the same as a lot of people my age, which is pretty much her being a victimized character by the hands of Rogue in the X-Men the animated series.
Yeah, X-Men the animated series played into the idea of something that actually happened in the comics, where Rogue is able to take a lot of Carol's powers and ultimately send her into a coma. We'll talk a little bit about that. I think I've always seen the character in lineups. Right. And just been like, who is that? And they're like, oh, it's Captain Marvel. I mean, it's Miss Marvel. Yeah. And then I'd be like, you mean like like the title Marvel, like Marvel Comics, like Miss Marvel Comics? Is that what?
Right.
Is that what that is? Like,
it's always just like, oh yeah, I've got this new game. It's called Ultimate Alliance. Like, who's this Miss Marvel character? Oh,
Miss Marvel, exactly. And
some chick in a leotard.
They constantly had her. Marvel has been conscious, at least from the early 2000s up, to keep her around.
Yes. And
on teams, and people know her, and but there was never really an idea to put her at the forefront. And this comes because she ultimately was just a love interest turned hero, right?
Yes.
You got
so.
Carol Danvers, the character of Carol Danvers, debuts in Marvel Superheroes number 13 in March 1968, but 9 years later, becomes her own superhero in Miss Marvel number 1. She was basically a side character in the actual Captain Marvel comic, Marvel. Should we probably go into all that Captain Marvel stuff, huh?
If you've got any of it, I have nothing.
Let's see if I can go through a quick Marvel
synopsis.
101. Let's go all the way back to the movie that's going to be coming out in April. Let's go all the way to Shazam. All right. So Fawcett Comics creates a character called called Captain Marvel. Mm-hmm. That it's little Billy Batson, who's imbued with the Greek gods, or some sort of
the power of a few different gods.
Yeah, grab bag powers from a few different gods, and he's able to turn into the fantastic Captain Marvel, and his body changes. He grows into a full-grown man, and has power over lightning and magic and all this kind of cool stuff. And
the wisdom of Solomon. And
these comics take off. Well, it turns out that at that time, DC had a very good legal team, and they would basically just sue anyone who they felt were ripping off Superman. And at the time, Superman was just a bodybuilder-esque white man in a cape. And that's a very simple thing to take on now. Literally half of the superheroes that have been created follow that, description. But at the time, DC had enough, enough pull to be like, nope, y'all gotta get rid of that character.
Looks too much like Superman. That's infringement.
Yes, they sue Fawcett Comics, and that Captain Marvel goes into the dark for a while. Marvel Comics in the 60s end up getting the copyright for the name Captain Marvel, and so they create their own. Mm-hmm. And their Captain Marvel is a Kree spy warrior sent to Earth, who eventually, falls in love with Earthlings and Earth, and chooses them instead of his own alien race, and ultimately falls in love with Carol Danvers, and during an attack or a battle, a machine called the Psych Magnetron explodes.
The most ridiculous name. Oh.
So when the Psych Magnetron explodes, Mar-Vell chooses to shield Carol from the explosion, but the explosion causes his Kree DNA to merge with her human DNA, creating the character of Miss Marvel. And so Miss Marvel was just like the love interest, but also had her own superpowers.
Who gets imbued with the powers of essentially Captain Mar-Vell, of just Mar-Vell, I assume.
And that happens a decade later. What do you think about that initial Miss Marvel design? Like that whole scarf with the underwear and midriff, stuff going on there.
You can argue that it's a product of its time, but like, man, some of those outfits are just awful.
Yeah, it does harken back to Mar-Vell's eventual costume, the color scheme, and stuff like that. Mar-Vell originally wearing his white and green for his Kree, lineage, something that we see Brie Larson kind of rocking in the trailer for the Captain Marvel film. So it looks like they're going to be playing with the colors that we know and love and that we associate with those alien races. So that's going to be pretty cool.
I think the thing you always have to look into at some point is just like you have to consider what the industry was doing at the time in the sense that we've got to use these really ridiculous color schemes because it's all that works on paper.
Yeah. Yeah, and we especially with the with Marvel, when Marvel starts to really start to crank these characters out, right? Like in the 60s and the 70s, when a lot of these characters start to first debut, it's about checking boxes sometimes.
Yes,
they used to have the superhero sidekick block to check.
Right.
Sometimes.
Right.
Remember, like, oh, we got to make a legacy. We got to make someone young that's following behind. And DC was really on top of that. And then for a while, you definitely had to have a love interest. What do people do if they're not in love? Like, what do they do every day if they're not constantly trying to go for somebody's affection?
Well, do you know the reason they eventually give Batman a Robin?
Was it because he was killing a bunch of people in the beginning of the?
Well, no, not that one, not that one.
Okay.
But basically, like because he's sort of, especially because he's a detective, he's having all these thoughts and he's seeing all these clues, but he has no one to talk to.
And he would just be insane, just saying like,
because they don't do like inner monologue back then the way we do now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
a whole book will be inner monologue. Now it's just like Batman walking around talking to himself, going, "Yes, this is what happened."
Well, that's what I'm saying. Those 60s and 70s comics are products of their time. I've tried to go back and read like some of the biggest benchmark comics. Especially
it's tough.
Marvel.
You had to be there,
and it's tough as hell because everybody is expository. Just ATMs is just coming out. You'll have somebody wake up and be like, "Wow, I'm glad I woke up on this Saturday at 9:00." And with these things to do that I have to do later on today, and it's like I didn't have to. You could just put 9:00. And
I tried to read an old Sinister Six book, and I was just like, I can't do this.
Yeah, I've read a couple Fantastic Fours, and they're all like that. They're all very descriptive, but it is weird because
you know what's tough about it for me sometimes. If you read an old enough Marvel book, like I can't not hear the dialogue in Stan Lee's voice because I know he's writing all of them.
And he talks that way.
Yes.
So when you see some of those writing there, it seems like it's him telling you a story.
It was just Spider-Man swinging through the city. It's just like, I woke up today.
Yeah.
And I was flying through this.
Yeah.
Swinging through the city, trying to deliver these pizzas.
We miss you, Stan. We miss you. But yeah, so I do think that in a lot of ways, she is a product of her time, but they eventually ended up choosing to do something with her, which I think is more important than anything else.
Yes.
I'm trying to get a handle on her actual creators, who are, her name is Carol Susan Jane Danvers. Did you know that?
I did not.
That's very long. That's like every female name they probably thought about in the comics at the time.
Apparently the name is sort of a take from the Supergirl thing, who was Linda Lee Danvers.
I can't. That also. Do you have any background on that? Like, why is there a Kara Danvers and a Carol Danvers? Like that seems very. I mean,
I think it was just sort of a takeoff of that analogous thing. Like Supergirl is the analogous character for Superman, Kara Danvers, or Linda Lee Danvers, depending on what time you were reading it.
I mean, I
so
guess
we
Kara,
created a Carol Danvers who was analogous to Marvel.
You literally got a Kara and a Carol who are blondes, who are red, blue, and yellow. And that seems to be very close to very close to each other. But yeah,
just one's an alien, so we have that.
Carol Danvers / Ms. Marvel was created by Roy Thomas and Gene Colan. Roy Thomas is most notably known for bringing Conan the Barbarian comics to America. So so you got Miss Marvel here, and they eventually kill off Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Dies of cancer.
Got the big C.
There's like a cover of like everyone around him. Like it was a big deal.
It was a pretty big deal. It wasn't a bad book, really. Like they send him out pretty nicely.
How does he? Do they like do one of those Ashes in the Wind? Kind of.
I don't remember if they did the Ashes. I know for a fact that like at the end of it, they were all like, a bunch of the Marvel characters are sort of standing out there as they are sort of, after they'd seen him off, and there's like a big Kree star in the sky, and it's just this really nice thing.
Yeah. I mean, the man did choose us over his race.
Yes.
A race that includes people like Ronan the Accuser and Yon-Rogg, people that we're going to be seeing in the Captain Marvel film. But noticeably absent, seemingly, is Marvel from the Captain Marvel film.
Yes.
How do you feel about them taking him away, and therefore there will be no I loved humanity more than my mission?
I think I'm fine with it, mostly because if that is in fact the case, for the most part, it crowds the movie.
Okay.
Especially in a movie that already has a lot of characters.
Yeah, you could ultimately, if you don't do that early and get that done quick,
yes,
you can make her look like an intern, almost, because you would also be following Marvel's ascension,
right? But Marvel's ascension and then descension has to be quick.
That's what I'm saying. Because if you don't do it quick enough, we've
got a whole story to tell about the '90s and meeting Nick Fury. And
exactly, yeah. And getting her up and ready for it. But she, for a very, very long time, she was tied to Marvel. She was the sidekick. She was the partner in crime, or I guess a partner against crime.
Mm-hmm.
And when he passes, she has basically an identity crisis and becomes an alcoholic. And we start to get some of the more dour additions to the Miss Marvel character. Her constant lack of confidence, her loss of self-identity. Did they just not know what to do with this character?
I think they didn't. But I think that is a staple of a long time of not knowing what to do with this character.
Yeah.
Who's just like super powerful, but like we don't know who this woman is.
Yeah.
We just know we created a woman.
Yeah. And so there was not the this is your strongest Avenger push.
No.
With this character as not there is now. And a lot of people are kind of scratching their heads at it now. Even though she's once we get her at her full powers, even things like Binary, we see that she legit can earn the mantle of that. But why do you think she was just kind of pushed to the side early on? You think it was the idea that she was tied to Marvel, so we had to just kind of keep her?
I think it was the fact that she was just because she was just this sort of legacy character connected to Marvel, that once Marvel was gone, it was like it's almost like saying we don't have a plan for Spider-Woman once Spider-Man goes away.
Yeah, that's true.
We created Spider-Woman as just like a connection of these issues of these this character to something else, but like we don't really have a handle on who Spider-Woman is.
Right.
We just created a character for whatever reason.
Now they exist.
Now Jessica Drew's out there in the universe. Yeah, what do we do with
them? You know, how do we address where they're at?
Until someone came up with the genius idea that, like, she's pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was the most interesting thing they'd ever done, and then it immediately went away.
But, you know, pregnancy doesn't always lead to better storylines.
No, it does not. Good God.
Because
what have I done?
In the 1980s, they published the landmark issue of Avengers 200. 200 issues. I mean, that's That's pretty big when you first reaching milestones like
it
that.
is.
You know. So you got
some people don't get to 8.
you got oh dear. Why did I think of damage? I think damage ends at 12 though.
I don't know. I'm still waiting for Doomsday Clock to get to 12.
We're gonna get to 9 first, bro. Oh my god, I like this whole crazy buying experience of that because I gotta get that and Detective 1000. We'll be covering that right here on the cast.
Yes,
I got a lot of comics I gotta get and a lot of movies I gotta see. But yeah, what do you do with the issue 200? You have to have something big. You have to have something monumentous, and so they end up impregnating Carol Danvers.
Yes, that's a momentous occasion, right?
But it's not just a regular consensual, loving pregnancy like I want to assume most pregnancies are.
You'd hope so.
In October of 1980, Miss Marvel is kidnapped by a character named Marcus, the apparent son of Avengers foe Immortus, and taken to an alternate dimension where she is brainwashed, seduced, and impregnated. Yes, this is the 1980. All right, brainwashed, seduced, impregnated. I'm guessing all against her will, so that implies rape. She gives birth on Earth to a child that rapidly ages into another version of Marcus. How much peyote do you have to be smoking where you're like, oh yeah, and then he comes out, bro, and then he's like full grown man. He's a full grown man, bro. You understand? That's what all this is about.
You sound like a very intimidating cross between Kevin Smith and Vince Russo.
That's all it is. Come on, bro. That's all it is. And so he's trying to use her to remain on Earth or whatever, but he's not able to. And he eventually is just like, well, if I can't be on Earth, I'm just gonna take my wife / mother to my dimension. And the Avengers are like, hi. And they literally no opposition from the Avengers.
No.
And because they honestly believe that Miss Marvel and Marcus are in love. Even though they did not know her to know this man. Even though she disappeared to another dimension. Even though she then gave birth to this man. Cap, Tony, Hawkeye, they're all like, nah, I mean, she's happy though. She's happy though.
I mean, that's what she wants.
You know, she's happy though. So they let her go there. Comic historian Carol A. Strickland criticizes the story in an essay titled "The Rape of Miss Marvel." Citing the Marcus storyline, she puts, finally, after relative weeks of such efforts, and admittedly with a subtle boost from Immortus Machine, you became mine. That's what Marcus said.
Yes, that's how it works.
Yeah, you know. So Strickland posted that as, this is basically rape. This is constituted rape. Like, this is ridiculous. Then they ended up undoing it and stuff like that. So we're all in the clear. Everything's cool with Captain Marvel. No babies. Everything's straight. And then she meets Rogue, like you said earlier on.
Yes.
So
you just keep going from one problem to another.
Yeah. So she meets Rogue, and Rogue is initially an evil mutant who has the powers to take away your powers.
To take other powers. Yes.
Yeah. To take. Yeah, because is the idea that both of you would have them then, or that yours is negated?
Well, I think that the idea is that she's able to just siphon the energy of life from you, because she can kill someone with it. Yeah. Should she, if she just touched a normal human, she would still be able to kill that person over time.
Well, that was always the emphasis I remember. Was the length of time in which she touches a person.
Yeah.
That's where the increments of power that she's taking from you,
right?
But
it worked on anyone. So you essentially she could just siphon the life force from you if she just holds on to a normal human for an amount of time. Yeah. Should you have powers, apparently if she holds on to you for long enough, she can also siphon those.
Ugh. And so
ridiculous.
And so usually it's a tap, it's a touch, whatever. Yeah. She grabs Miss Marvel's face. She just grabs her by the head and holds on for a very, very, very long time. And through that, Rogue is able to gain super strength and flight, and she ends up becoming a more popular member of the X-Men. Through this dastardly act, she ends up all is forgiven, and she, even though you try to kill a hero that we all know, because all the Avengers and X-Men, everybody's cool with each other. Rogue becomes more popular. Carol gets put in a coma, and basically just wakes up to everyone being cool with Rogue, and You know, we like
everyone just accepts this.
Yeah, we're happy that you're back too. Like,
yeah.
You know, that you're back too, but you're back also.
It's like, wait, like you mean you didn't lock her up? Like, no, she's cool.
Yep.
No, she's not.
And so, sure, when you think that with the Marcus stuff, you already kind of knew with the death of Captain Marvel that they might not have much for her to do.
Mm-hmm.
You bring in the Marcus stuff, that's almost a nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the Rogue stuff, and you're like, well, what is there left to do? And then you get Binary, which is basically this was.
So wait, if I know correctly, and I'm not completely sure of this, aren't all of these happening in other people's books too?
Yes, because they weren't really rocking her like
right
in her own title.
So like, not only are we beating this character up, but it's like she doesn't even have her own stuff. We're just beating in this side.
We need somebody to do these things.
She's just this bullet sponge that we are just holding in front of us to like beat on.
That's what a lot of people consider Binary. They consider her incredibly overpowered for the sake of narrative drive.
Right.
Because nobody else on the team can be that. They just go, well, what do people know / care about Carol Danvers anyway? We can say that we did this and we did that, and now she's a god, and no one's gonna question it. You know, she also kind of reminds me of like Harbinger from Crisis on Infinite Earths, which that's around that same time. Which I mean, I feel like those comic creators were always looking over each other's shoulder.
Oh yeah,
and stuff like that.
Oh, we just had that interesting few weeks where it was just like, the Avengers and Justice League are both doing stories about old cosmic things at the same time.
Yeah, we thought they would never come to Earth, but now they're here.
What's up?
Yeah, exactly. It's like you guys are obviously looking.
And now they're both doing water stories. I don't understand.
You said that you made a good point about saying that she didn't have her own title to do these things in.
No,
and that is kind of the crux of a lot of this. This need for a reboot, this now emphasis on her as a character, the stuff like the slow plotting of the eventual Black Widow movie that we're gonna get, right? Eventual. What do you think it is about Marvel? And obviously, I don't think it's a sexist thing, but what do you think it is about them and their female characters that they can't seem to get a Wonder Woman or a Supergirl or a even a Catwoman? A Catwoman. It may not be a hero, but she's iconic. Like people know of that character. Poison Ivy, stuff like that. I don't think that Marvel, besides a Black Widow, and now you would say a Captain Marvel, but 10 years ago, say Captain Marvel in a room full of people who just saw Iron Man, they'll be like, who?
Right.
You know. What do you think is Marvel's issue with that?
Well, I'd say at first it was definitely a little sexist, but I mean, like,
right. Well, everyone's half naked too. So
yeah, I was gonna say, look at these costumes. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I think it has a bit to do with the fact, and we mentioned this offcast. The Marvel universe, as massive as it is, kind of focuses on a central bunch of guys.
Yeah,
these are the people that are in and out of the revolving door of whatever the Avengers is at the time you are reading it.
Yeah.
Except for New Avengers, which is completely different.
Right.
And that's about it. You have what we have now in the MCU, which is these are our big characters, and these are our sort of Avengeristic auxiliary characters.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we bring in Black Widow as a co-star for this thing. We bring in Falcon as a co-character for this thing, but they're not doing any of their own stuff.
Yeah, almost how they use Mr. Terrific and DC side of things.
Yes,
he's always looked at as a value member, but he's never really the first one they call. They call him. He'll get the call eventually. But
we need those spears you got, buddy.
Yeah.
So we've never had that female like lead for Marvel for most of the years that I can remember.
Yeah.
You have female characters of a level of importance.
Who would you say those are?
Sue Storm.
Okay. I put her up there. Yeah.
Sue Storm is important and almost iconic in her own way, but she's a team character.
Yeah, she is.
At the end of the day, it's the Fantastic Four, and Sue Storm is an integral part of it.
You would actually think that, like, if the Avenger, you get stuff like A-Force and stuff, but you actually think like if any superhero team, female-led superhero team, is gonna go down, like Sue would be one of the people that you kind of
absolutely.
But she is, like you said, she's not only in a team, but that's a family, her family.
Yes,
and
they
that also
they rock
ties her
together.
down. Yeah, that also ties her down.
So she's not a lead. She's important. She is well taken care. Well, she's mostly well taken care of. There were some stages there.
Yeah. I've seen some of those outfits.
I've
seen some of those outfits. Yeah, they're kind of ridiculous.
We had some moments there, but
and Namor's always trying to get to her.
That's always weird. So they never actually land on a female character, and as we mentioned, we were talking about off-cast. I meant to say the X-Men, or at least the mutant community, seems to have a lot of strong female characters.
Yeah.
But they are such an island onto themselves in their own mutant culture that it's almost as if it exists outside of the greater Marvel universe.
Yeah, because you got Jean in there, you got Rogue, you got Storm.
Jean and her 7 deaths.
Yes. Psylocke was always seemed to be deadly, and she always got to push, you know, with her stuff. And then everybody else is like the femme fatales, like you'll get a Elektra.
Yes.
Or something like that. But there was never really a... I mean, it's She-Hulk as well, right?
But She-Hulk is an analogous character to, the various other Hulks.
Yeah, that's true.
Out there.
Yeah, you're right. It very much in this vein of Ms. Marvel to Marvel.
Right. So you get Scarlet Witch, who doesn't get her own book for years and gets one short run that doesn't really work out.
And they paired her with Pietro for the most part. And
right.
And
she's mostly just known as this, like, chaos character that only bad things come from.
Yeah, they use her. Yeah, she is the MacGuffin of reality.
And then she's just like, well, she's Vision's wife.
Yeah. Yeah, you have that too. Where they're I guess we're coming in on a hypothesis here. It seems like a lot of these characters, these female characters that are not in the X-Men, were their most defining trait is their relationship to their more successful
male character. Yes.
As opposed to what they were able to do with the mantle or the thing in
or just with who they were as a character, as a person.
Ah, damn, Carol. Well, I'm glad she got out from underneath it, but it wasn't without alcoholism first. Carol decides
the other how do you say, the other big wall.
Yeah, she was pissed because she's all like, "You guys, I hate the Avengers. You guys let me get captured by that rapist guy," and everybody was cool with it. Even you, Hawkeye, stop trying to act like you're looking at the floor. You know you were down with it. I'm not going as Miss Marvel anymore. My name is Warbird. And then you get, like, with that, you also, and a little bit with the Miss Marvel stuff, you get the bathing suit outfit.
Right.
The onesie kind of.
The leotard.
Yeah, the leotard with the high boots and the sash and the domino mask. What do you think about that outfit?
First off, the domino mask doesn't cover anything. Why are we doing that?
It never does, man. I'm not a huge fan. I like him on the Robins. I feel like it defines the Robin character.
Maybe.
But everybody else is just little.
But my issue is typically like the massive domino mask that doesn't cover anything.
Yes. Yeah.
So like that's the one I can't get. We kind of made fun of the Green Lantern domino mask because it's like, dude, everyone knows what your face looks like.
But another thing that makes it even worse is, to my knowledge, for the most uses of domino masks, they try to do the white eyes.
Yes.
Or they try to do, but hers, they don't even go to the eyes. Like, you can see the skin around her eyes.
They're far above and far below.
Yes,
it's just these two big diamonds on her face.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? Like, I can. That's you, Carol.
I can see you.
She also has like shoulder-length gloves. Like, she has gloves
and knee-high boots.
Yeah, knee-high boots. So they wanted to cover her up, but apparently just not the parts that.
Yeah. So she's just like flying through the air, ass out.
Yeah.
It's December. Doesn't matter.
In the 2000s, she gets some of her more formidable years.
Yes.
Before the Captain Marvel mantle that she ends up taking on. I actually read these issues of comics because when Endgame ended, and we got that big beeper.
Infinity War.
I'm already in the future, bro. When Infinity War ended and the beeper, the beeper logo,
the most important beeper this side of the 2000s.
Yeah, you ain't lying. Lit up. I had to figure out how all my guys have seemingly fallen into this purple alien man, and how Captain Marvel is going to be the one to save it. And everything on Captain Marvel at the time was relatively new. We'll get into the constant relaunches of Captain Marvel #1s. So I figured the biggest chunk of Captain Marvel driven and Captain Marvel centered comics I can get are the Miss Marvel run in the 2000s, and that I read 50 issues of that, and that goes through some of Marvel's biggest stories at the time, which are Civil War, the Skrull Invasion,
House
the
of
Dark
M.
Avengers, House of M, which is a lot of the more modern super events.
Just
that
the
are going
parade of Marvel events and big happenings.
Yes, yeah, and these, I mean, those four, man, the things that have been done to the universe because of Civil War, the Skrull Invasion, the Dark Avengers, and House of M, changed everything. Changed everything as
Can you imagine being a guy in the Marvel universe who just works at a FedEx? It's just like, oh God, what's happening today?
There's a scene, I think is maybe in Secret Invasion or something.
My boss is a green alien.
Somebody's reminiscing, and as you turn the pages, it's all those events.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, they did them all. Like, they legit, did them all. And so, more importance is placed on her, especially post Civil War, because she's one of the people that decides that she's for the Registration Act. And so Tony needs to get a whole team of pro-registrators on his Avengers team.
Right.
And Miss Marvel is one of them. And Miss Marvel and Tony seem to have like autonomy on the team. Like, they're both kind of the leader. Like, he diverts power to her in the same way she does, and vice versa.
Miss Marvel made sense in that situation for me because she comes from a structure of like military and government, how do you say,
like the ranking structure, like
yes.
like sort of like a bureaucracy
yes.
kind of deal. Yeah.
So like for her, like registering is just like it's just the Air Force.
It's just another form.
I'm just back in the Air Force.
Yeah, it's just another form putting my social security number on. And,
right.
And yeah. No, I can get that. And I mean, to the most part, people knew Carol Danvers. I don't think she had much of a secret identity.
No.
Same way like Tony Stark. Like, people kind of, besides the whole Iron Man's my bodyguard stuff.
Right. I don't know when that ever gets out.
And then he eventually is just like,
it's me.
Yeah, I am Iron Man. How do you feel about her in a leading role? Like, it makes sense for her to sign up for the Registration Act, but how do you feel about her leading, and not only the Avengers, but the newly titled Mighty Avengers?
Yes.
Rebranding. These ain't your grandfather's Avengers, mostly because these are all law-abiding citizens that are choosing to sign the Registration Act. How did you feel about her inclusion on the team and her being basically the leader?
I felt about it. That was one of the books I did read. Especially around the time of our comrade Yogi trying to get me into like the new Avengers run and all that.
Yeah.
I got to read that too. I actually quite enjoyed it. It's a lot of Miss Marvel struggling to not only not even so much to be the leader, but to sort of earn the title from her peers. Because she's just like, why do you want me to lead this team?
Right.
I have to convince these people to listen to me.
And it's also kind of obvious that these people, for the most part, and no offense to any of these characters, were not first choices.
No. Because
had everyone who was on the original Avengers just signed the Registration Act, we'd be peaches. Everybody would be fine. But now we have to go and like tell other heroes, like, hey, there's an opening, Remember that team you always wanted to be on, and I always said, not in hell, it would be a cold day in hell before that happens. Well, put on your sweater because it's getting kind of cold out there. So that roster was Iron Man, Miss Marvel, Wonder Man, The Wasp, Black Widow, my boy Sentry, who's an absolute nut job. I love him because he's freaking crazy. And Ares, which I guess was their Thor. That was their Thor.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, you had Ares on the team. So
Ares is just like big giant gladiator dude who wants to punch all the things.
Yeah. You got that's a pretty good team. I mean, you still got Iron Man there. A lot of women: Miss Marvel, the Wasp, and Black Widow.
Yes.
Wonder Man, Sentry, and Ares, which are lesser known Marvel characters.
Most people still don't know who Wonder Man is.
Yes. Yeah. And so they were trying to push new characters out there and see if they had any standing. And eventually, Jessica Drew ends up joining the roster. Or does she? Because we find out that Jessica Drew is a freaking Skrull. And that's what creates this whole Secret Invasion madness. And that's what ties... I mean, the Kree and the Skrull have been fighting forever. They've been fighting literally forever. Aren't the Kree are responsible for the creation of the Inhumans?
I believe the Inhumans is a Kree project that got scrapped.
Yeah, it was just like we're just gonna leave it on the moon.
They tried to kill them all. It didn't work out.
Yeah, so they
ended up on Earth.
The Kree have always been incredibly intelligent with their technology and their fighting force and their military. The Skrulls have always been incredibly devious with their ability to shapeshift, and that allows them strong footholds in various different cultures and planets. And they've been kind of at odds forever. So the Secret Invasion is just another layer of this whole Kree and Skrull thing that I know they're gonna get knee deep into when push comes to shove in Captain Marvel. What do you think about Secret Invasion, and what do you think of the odds we see that in our MCU? Because I think everyone's like just chomping at the bit right now. They're just like everything seems to be there for that.
Here's my trouble with the idea of Secret Invasion, as far as I understand it. As far as the movies are concerned, the whole idea is usually that you find out that some big important character, was a Skrull the entire time, which works in books and in cartoon or television series, because then you still have an entire period now you get to rebuild that character name after the fact.
Yeah.
If you try to do the thing that Earth's Mightiest Heroes does, where Captain America was a Skrull the entire time, like, oh, great, all those movies we love was a complete imposter.
Yeah.
And now it's all crap.
Well, the only way Secret Invasion works is with surprising reveals.
Yes.
I do think you're correct in saying that if it can't be anyone that I don't think it could ever be anyone that we've seen their point of view.
Right.
So the movie's been about them, or that we've seen their origin story. I think you scratched that right out.
You can use pretty much most of any of the auxiliary Avengers characters.
Yeah. But like even Scarlet Witch, I feel like has done too much background to be a Skrull and stuff like
that. Scarlet maybe like you could have made who am I thinking of? You could have made Hawkeye a Skrull and kind of gotten away with it. Yeah. You could make.
I think the Hawkeye being a Skrull thing, it messes up with the Loki mind.
Maybe.
Maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but I'm thinking like, if you did take over his mind, wouldn't he just go back to being like a Skrull? Like, how does that work? Do you have to actively be concentrating on being a Hawkeye, and then that happens? Poor Hawkeye.
That may be true. But yeah,
Ellen Page is his wife in that, isn't she?
Yes. No, not Ellen Page.
Other girl. Yes.
Yes.
I discredit you, woman. That I can't, whose name I can't remember, but I'm going to find it out because I feel so bad. Why did I think that was Ellen Page? They look similar.
I can see why you'd say that. Yeah, no, I remember her from Freaks and Geeks. What was her name?
Her name, survey says, is Linda Cardinelli.
Yes, I think it's
Cardellini. Yes. Yeah.
There's a few people. You can't do Black Widow because she's got a movie coming up and she's too popular.
Yes. I think everyone's mostly pointing to Rhodey.
See, Rhodey you can kind of get away with.
Yeah, and
no one's concerned about it.
And he's in the military, which also seems like a advantage to the Skrulls if they ever wanted to go that route.
But then, like, you run into the funny part of just like, so there were Skrulls working for Hydra?
Yeah. The
military's all screwed up in the Marvel universe.
Was there any good people in any of this? But yeah, that brings the Skrull invasion here. That brings the Skrull invasion to Earth, and Captain Marvel is at the front and ready for that. There was also this crazy story going on during Secret Invasion in which Captain Marvel shows back up. And Marvel shows back up and everybody's like, what? You're dead. And he's like, it turns out he's a Skrull, but the Skrull's so jacked up in his programming that he actually believes he is Marvel.
Yes.
He actually has retained the memories and everything, which is part of the transition when they do these invasions.
I believe this happens twice.
Yeah, so he flips out
Not twice at Marvel, but like to 2 characters.
Yeah.
Because I believe we also have the "No, I am totally your wife, Hawkeye."
Yep.
I am Mockingbird.
Mockingbird, yeah.
And then she's not, and Hawkeye's just like, "Oh, we are killing."
Oh, that
all
was
of
jacked
them.
up because if I can remember, what ended up happening was they were like, anyone could be a Skrull or whatever, and Mockingbird's like, not us. Remember that miscarriage that we had? And he's like, oh my God, no one would ever know about that
intimate, deep details that
like,
only Hawkeye would know. And Hawkeye's just like,
ever know about
it's my wife, y'all.
And then she dies, and it's like, yep, she's a Skrull, y'all. She's a Skrull, y'all.
No, she doesn't die, but like, they use the machine that reveals who Skrulls are, and the green skin happens, and then Hawkeye's just like, okay.
I'll put your ass.
Now we're killing all of them.
Yeah, that's what he says. That's exactly what he says. Yeah, we're gonna kill them all. Yeah. So, what a crazy twist! The idea that a shape-shifting alien would go so far and so deep into character that he would start believing he's that character, and then he starts to destroy Skrull ships. Mm-hmm. He starts to help in the war against the Skrulls, even though he is a Skrull. I thought that was all pretty interesting. Which I think, if you're going to do that story, you have to do it to that extent. It has to be someone who's in so deep that they're not mustache twirling behind the scenes. They legit think that they're this person. And so when the reveal happens, it becomes, I'm not. Like, I've been hanging out with y'all.
Right.
And then, oh, damn.
Right.
I'm green.
It doesn't work unless you have the time to redeem a character after the fact. And, like, you can't do it. You can't say it was Captain America or Iron Man because they're going to go away.
Yeah.
And all those movies we watched are now done.
Yeah, sadly. They could have probably done it on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or
potentially,
Marvel Netflix shows.
Yeah, you could have definitely done like, oh, such and such was a Skrull for the first 2 seasons. Here's 3 seasons of like making it all better.
Yeah. But that Skrull invasion storyline ends in around 2009. And then we get the Dark Avengers line, which I actually thought was a pretty smart direction to go in. The idea that then the government is just like, you know what, we don't really trust y'all anymore. Like first we didn't trust y'all, and y'all were like, well, we'll just register, and then y'all almost blew up the Earth in this little quarrel between each other, about whether or not y'all should register. Then an alien species come down, and half of y'all are that too. Screw it, we need a government, enlisted Avengers, and we need it from the guy who ultimately shoots the Skrull Queen in the head, Norman Osborn.
Because
Norman.
We decided to trust Norman Osborn.
Psyche Valves be damned. Norman Osborn leads his own Avengers and gets his own evil, malicious version of Miss Marvel, played by the villain. I want to say Moonstone.
Yes.
Who's a murderer. So you get a little bit.
Might I add, the Iron Patron suit looks fantastic and does not get enough play.
I like the one with more red. I don't like the one with more blue. I like Norman's. I don't like.
You don't like the roadie one in the movie?
I like the roadie one. It reminds me too much of Cap. Like, and it should.
I figured that was the point.
Yeah. So you have Moonstone. You get that duality because throughout those 50 issues that I read of Miss Marvel, she seemed very conflicted, very confused. Mm-hmm. She wasn't very sure of herself. She would go back and reminisce on her origins, the multiple of them, and you can see how convoluted things were. And then when they talked about big events, she just wasn't around. Like, not prior to the 2000 events.
Yes.
Like, when they talk about other things, she's like, I remember when that happened, but like, she had no play in that moment. And so she kind of has to fight herself to get past the Miss Marvel moniker and all that kind of stuff, and she eventually does when she takes on Warbird as part of the Dark Avengers and stuff. And then we start hearing some rumblings that they might be actually trying to rebrand and recreate Carol Danvers, as
Marvel often does with a lot of things.
Were you privy to this while it was happening, or was this something that you saw once it did happen?
It was something I saw once it did happen. Like, I did not know that the Miss Marvel character had changed until it was well into it.
Okay.
So I was just like, oh, she's Captain Marvel now? Okay.
What'd you think?
I just remember seeing like, oh, this flight suit looks much better and really cool. Okay. Like, maybe they take this character seriously now.
Yeah.
I'm kind of into it. So I ended up like, and this was also like, I came into it so late that she'd already had the haircut.
Ah, okay.
So it seemed like it was just an older Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, who had just like they had really just revamped around.
And there's something. I mean, there is a connotation behind that Miss Marvel stuff, right? Like as opposed to Captain or Miss. I guess you. Well, there's a Mister Terrific, so I guess it's not that.
To a degree.
Is it me? Am I being sexist now? What's going on here?
No. I think at the time you could argue that like
Little Miss Marvel, like Little Miss. That just feels like
Miss Daisy.
Yeah, it just feels like you're patting her on the head. You're not.
Yeah.
You're not saluting her.
But like, and at the same time, it almost feels like because I don't know how many Misters were out there, like other than maybe Mr. Fantastic, but again, that's like its own silly thing.
I want to go on a tangent on that real quick. It's hilarious if you go back to that issue of the comic because they, it's like, wow, Johnny, you're setting on fire. You're like some sort of human torch.
Right.
And then it's like, Sue, I can barely see you. You are some kind of invisible woman. And then he goes, and Ben, you have just become this sort of thing. And I'll call myself Mr. Fantastic.
You're a jackass.
It's like, wow, you really think highly of yourself, Reed. You sat here and just made up whatever we look like. And then no one called you stretchy or, rubber band.
Doom had the ego.
No one called you rubber band man. You just like, oh, I'll just take it upon myself to call myself Mr. Fantastic. But
of course you did.
That shows how big branding is and stuff.
It also shows how heavy-handed character naming is and why all the movies have other people name them.
I think it's as bad as like when you start going into early Marvel comics and you got like the Punisher, the Destroyer, the Supreme, even the Supreme Intelligence. Like when you start adding all those super ultra and things on top of each other, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
But in talking about moving her from Miss to Captain, editor Steve Wacker mentions that he'd been trying to get this name changed since his first day editing the book about 5 years prior to the actual rebrand. So he'd been trying to push for the Captain Marvel thing for a minute. What do you think about the idea? Like, do you think she could be Captain Marvel in that outfit, in the Miss Marvel outfit? Or does it have to be a complete teardown?
I don't think she can at all. Like, I think it almost undermines the importance of the name.
Yeah.
Or like if I hear Captain Marvel, it comes with a sense of like rank and importance.
Yeah, and respect.
And then
and respect, like
yes.
like a stand straight soldier kind of.
Right, and then you see that person flying around in this black leotard and long gloves and long boots. It's just like, wait, what?
And a barely covering domino mask.
Yes,
and so even though Steve Wacker wanted to do the change, the actual change comes from the actual change and the rebranding and all that stuff comes from a name you're going to be hearing a lot in the rest of this podcast, and that is Kelly Sue DeConnick. Kelly Sue DeConnick is the pioneer of what we see as the new Captain Marvel, the new Carol Danvers. Yes. And although people have taken some of her lead, maybe not in the best direction, a lot of what we will be seeing in the film Captain Marvel will be in direct relation to the things that Kelly Sue DeConnick created for the character. And so, even though she had done a lot of work in comics before Captain Marvel, that rebranding was like the biggest project that she had to date. And when the book first hit, even when you look at that first page of that Pursuit of Flight book, the first page is a newspaper clipping of like Captain Marvel's brand new and she's doing it's the way of saying to everyone like, this is not what you've been reading. This
all new and all different even.
Oh my gosh. Let's go with that. So let's get a little bit into that issue there, because I think that issue is pretty important. Then we can get back to why the decisions were made. But this is a synopsis of the first issue of Captain Marvel in 2012, written by Kelly Sue DeConnick with art by Dexter Soy. So this is the first self-titled Captain Marvel issue to feature Carol Danvers in the lead role. This issue is important because it showcases the new costume, the haircut, the attitude, and ultimately the weight of the decision on whether to take Marvel's moniker. It opens with Carol and Captain America taking on the Absorbing Man, aka Crusher Creel, in the streets of New York. It is here that we find out that
because you needed 2 nicknames.
I think Crusher Creel is fine, like as a villain name. Like you don't need to be the Absorbing Man.
Exactly, because like I'm pretty sure no one had a kid. And it's just like I'm gonna name him Crusher.
Yeah, right. They like him though. They use him quite often.
They do.
It wasn't he in Shield? I gotta see. I gotta double check. I think he was in Agents of Shield.
I believe he was. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. We find out that she's in the new outfit already, and you know the blue, red, and gold flight suit with the sash, and the sash is a callback to her previous costume.
It seems outfit changes in comics are never like explained or
yeah.
They just happen.
Yeah, and then people will like slightly comment them. Oh, you got a new thing? Yeah. And that's it.
Yeah. Okay.
All said and done. And
Superman's wearing the underwear again. Yeah.
So we got the captains fighting together, and I think they did that on purpose. You know, they take the villain down, and she exclaims that some of her suit is made from Stark tech. So that's pretty cool to know. Cap and Carol return to the Avengers Tower, where Cap does his best to convince Ms. Danvers into taking Marvel's moniker and place as Captain Marvel, as opposed to Miss Marvel, which she was for years. And I'm guessing she was still Miss Marvel then when they were fighting.
Technically, yes.
Crusher Creel. Yeah. But she's not with it at all, though. She's like, nah.
No.
And she's like violently not with it. Like one place she's playing with a knife, and she's just like, stop bringing it up, whatever. And she took it as like, that's his name. I'm not taking a dead person's name and just acting like he doesn't exist.
Right.
And Cap, being the diplomat that he is all like, technically that's not his name. Technically Marvel
never his name.
Is his name, and we called him Captain Marvel. So, like, what you talking about? Like,
anyone could be Captain America.
And then it's the idea that he's
been on like 2 different other people.
He says that Captain Marvel is not his name, but it's his legacy, and that you have to assume that legacy was meant to be passed down to Miss Marvel, to Carol Danvers. And he basically just like, just reconsider it.
Yes.
We see Spider-Man show up, and Carol, you know, they once went on a date, so that's a little funny and stuff. And she's even playing around with him on some like, do you like Miss Marvel? And he's like, if I tell you I don't, will you hit me harder? So I think that's kind of cool that if Kelly thought the name was too old-fashioned or too old school, you would then have older characters, established characters, be like, yeah, we didn't really like it either. You know? And then that kind of eases the transition. Excuse me. Yeah, but Spider-Man shows up, tries to set up another date, and Carol's is like, nah, I'm busy. But in a beautiful moment, we see Carol escape to clear her head, and she ends up flying so far and so quickly that she escapes Earth's orbit. Then chooses to come straight back down, feeling the velocity of re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. What do you think about that? That whole, like, I just need to go. I just need to get away. We don't see that often. I mean, Spider-Man may go to, like, a rooftop or something. But, like, out, like leave orbit? Like, he's like, I just feel like leaving orbit?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
It was a nice scene, especially when it's like, you consider the idea that, especially if you were in a city area, what's the quietest place you could go? Well, if you can fly, you go to space.
Yeah.
Into the cold darkness of space. And it's just this really cool.
And we get to see the cool helmet.
Yes.
And gear, you know, the helmet that leaves just a little bit of space for her hair to come shooting
just a little bit.
Shooting out through the top. But like the description of how she feels out there in the void of space, the description of how she feels re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, going Mach whatever,
that rush again,
burning up, you know, with the power of the atmosphere, and she confesses to feeling overpowered. Also, which I thought was very interesting. She says like she lost the concept of risk because it wouldn't be fair for her to like do the things that she normally wanted to do, the things that she normally thought were risky, are child's play to her.
Yes,
and it
would be.
Yeah, but what does that do to somebody who wants to achieve?
Adrenaline.
When you nerf them, you know, and when they're literally built on the next task or goal, what does that do to a person as purpose? You know? And I think that's the question that she ends up asking herself. And the only thing is to take on more.
Yes.
And so in this instance, she decides, and I love the page. She's like, I'm taking the damn name.
I'm taking the damn name.
And it's like, okay, in just that little bit of time, so much character rehab being done. They show her being unsure of herself, but unsure of herself for real reasons, not just because we need the character to not reach the point that we need them to reach until a certain issue.
So now it's like, okay, I need a challenge. Fine, I'll take the damn name. I will be Captain Marvel.
I will be the Captain Marvel, and maybe in some ways that's part of the reason why she didn't want to take it anyway. She felt she would fall short of the legacy, and so now with Captain Marvel being in the front, I was gonna say the front view. That's just view.
Yeah, right.
Now it being in the distance, she has something to race towards.
Right.
To being a better Captain Marvel and in going higher, further, faster, and more.
Yes. It's also sort of, if you want to, you could also metatextually read it as just like, yeah, I'm going to take this character and I'm going to make it work.
Yeah.
Which would be the first time we got it done.
And that making it work may mean, metaphorically, getting her as far away from everybody as possible, getting her ready, and then shooting her straight back down into the continuity as this brand new Captain Marvel, ready and stuff like that. We also learned for her immense admiration of Helen Cobbs, who broke 15 records during her time as a pilot when females were discouraged for being one. So it's the death of this, women's rights pilot, combined with her feelings of this Marvel moniker that solidify what she wants to do, because the issue closes with Carol at Helen's funeral, choosing to honor her memory, and that means taking more risks and living her life more unapologetically. And I do think, like, what's that last line? Can you read the script? The nice Helen Cobb. I think she wrote a letter or something like that.
The whole thing.
Right. I think the page before the last, and then the last. Will.
Okay. It says, "We're gonna get where we're going, you and me. Death and indignity be damned."
This is probably Kelly Sue talking to Carol Danvers.
Death and indignity be damned. We'll get there, and we will be the stars we were always meant to be.
And that there's few first issues that will make you feel like, okay, you know what? Maybe this character, they've
got something here.
They've lit a fire under her. She now has, a place to go and stuff like that. We were actually doing some research about that outfit, because how do you jump from a onesie, a leotard, to a flight suit? And it turns out that this was all basically like a part of a bet. There was this character costume designer named, well, I just had that.
I forgot his name.
I know his last name is McKelvey.
Is it Jason McKelvey?
Jamie McKelvey.
Jamie McKelvey.
That's exactly what it is. Jamie McKelvey. And so when Kelly was doing her writing and stuff like that, they already knew that they needed a new outfit. And they're like, that McKelvey guy.
They say at first he tried to take the black out of the Miss Marvel suit and just tried to like extend it so that it covered her legs and whatnot.
Like a what's they call those?
Like a full,
like a morph suit, like one of those, like
almost, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, not only did it not look great, but now it's just this all black and it just looks too dark.
Yeah, yeah.
We're trying to get away from these dark characters.
And that logo, whatever that logo is.
The S. The Miss.
That's what I'm saying, like the S for Miss?
Yes. Yes.
Wouldn't you go M for Miss Marvel?
Because, your identity is that you are female.
That's what it is, yeah. Whatever. So yeah, they get Mr. So they're like, yeah, she actually says, like, can we just put him on payroll, get him to design this suit for us, and move forward with it? And they're like, listen, we're not giving Captain Marvel money for this, right? Like, we are not going to pay this guy to do this, but if he were on his own accord to create this outfit, and if on his own accord give you that, so now it's in your possession.
And should the outfit just come across my desk one day and I like what I see,
and I approve it, then we will use it, and we could pay him for that commission of that outfit. Mm-hmm. And that's ultimately what ends up happening. And they say that the culture in general for costume design is changing.
Yes.
Especially with artists now being the forefront of this creation where I felt like a lot of times it was the writers going, and they should have this and they should have that.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's the artist going like, what would make sense? How does that zip up?
Right.
Where do the buttons go on that? You know what I'm saying? And so we've gotten more grounded looks at some of these characters, and this is right up there with some of the best. Like some of that Captain America stuff doesn't look like it's comfortable. Like the early
I have railed against the whole scale thing since the day I saw that outfit. Like, why are there scales on his chest?
But sometimes they give him like
is
the
he
white
a fish man.
They give him the white long sleeves.
Yeah, sometimes they do.
You know, so he's like,
and he
has like
massive,
armor.
He's got these massive gloves.
Yeah, he has armor, gloves, and a long sleeve like Under Armour shirt going on.
Like they're not even armored gloves though; they're just big. Because they got these gaps in between them, so there's these.
Same with his boots.
They look like the Undertaker gloves from the first run.
Yeah,
and like these silly like folded over boots that everyone had back then.
Yes, the pirate boots.
Yeah,
pirate boots.
It's just like it looks so silly.
What do you think of the new? What did you think? What do you think? And are those both opinions the same? What you thought when you first saw the new Captain Marvel outfit versus what you think now? And how do you think it looks in the film?
Okay. I still love the flight suit. Like it we were discussing off cast, like it gets a little odd in the details sometimes because the suit looks like it's just like sort of a kind of tight onesie because it's drawn without much separation.
Yeah.
But I just think that's a thing that happens in comics.
Yeah. It's easy. It's just easier to do.
Yeah, it's like saying that like the Flash's suit is drawn like it's the tightest one-piece suit
but he still
possible.
Has a belt.
But when he
I always think of that. Why does he still have a belt?
But when you see Flash take the mask off, they draw it with separation from the neckline.
Yeah, like a hoodie. Like it has like
right.
Yeah.
So like it's not this super tight suit, but we draw it that way.
Yeah.
Because to draw the detail of separation and texture would take hours.
The same way they show him that is the TV version of that is when they cut when he takes off his thing because it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense in the scheme of how things look like when they're worn.
Exactly.
She looks comfortable in it.
He does.
You know.
Which is why I understood why in the Flash it was just like a jacket.
Yeah. Yeah.
The movie one looks great. It was a bit more spectacular than I expected it to be, but I was almost kind of happy about that.
Spectacular in what, like the level of detail and stuff like that? You think?
A little bit, and then once they added the color to that outfit, I was just like, Jesus Christ, that pops out at you.
How do you feel about the idea that this is? I think with the movie, something interesting is there because this is the standard Kree armor,
yes,
just colored differently.
Essentially, yes.
How do you feel about that?
I liked it because it
grounds that there. It means it has a place in history. Like
it has a purpose. The design has a purpose.
Okay.
You know,
it wasn't just her going. And I think it'd be cute if you put some stuff.
I just want these lines ahead to lead to a diamond type thing. It's just kind of cool. Right. No, that suit has a purpose and it has a connection to who she is. Yes. Which was like noble warrior hero. Yeah. A soldier.
I do like that they moved to that sort of, multi-sided star because initially Captain Marvel's Marvel's logo was just like a planet, like a circle with the ring around the planet.
Was it?
Yeah, it was garbage. It was just like,
oh yes, yes. I remember seeing that in like the name titles.
Yeah, it was like, this is what we think of an alien. He would just put his planet on his chest, and that just be what it is. Not no alien glyph or symbol, just a picture of where they're from.
Now it is the Hala Star.
Can you imagine coming out as a superhero and just having the outline of New York on your chest? You should know what this is. No, I like it.
I am the New Yorican.
Do you think it's up there with Cap and Iron Man? Like, I'm pretty sure when they did this, they were trying to get her in leagues of some of the most iconic.
I'd say so, but like,
up there.
Which are we talking about the movie versions?
Yeah. Because I think the movie version is going to inform everyone moving forward. Comics has informed everyone. Yes. She has had an increased importance in comics, but I do think that movies will be the one to usher in. If her movie makes $1 million, we will get 10 more Captain Marvel #1s. Happening.
We will.
Or $1 billion, $1 million. What am I talking?
Yes. And the Young Wild character will somehow come back.
Exactly. Yep. Jude Law.
The same way it's just like, oh, Black Panther made $1 million. Let's make a
Maybe
Killmonger book.
Killmonger isn't dead. How about Marvel? How about we Marvel? What if that? Huh?
How about we give him the same exact hairstyle in the top?
Synergy, baby. That's that movie synergy.
I think it might get up there. Like, it's hard to say because I have an affinity for the suit already. So I'm just going and just like, oh, it looks great.
Yeah.
Yes, this is everything I wanted.
It is going to, impart on a brand new generation of, female moviegoers, female comic book readers, young girls who've never known who this character is. So I'm also very curious as to how they feel. Like, when they see a Wonder Woman and when they see a Captain Marvel, do they see a difference in toughness? Do they see a difference in independence or autonomy? Do they see a difference in, does the garb dictate a certain level of professionalism versus warrior?
Well, yes.
Warrior ethos.
I think sometimes as adults, especially the ones who grew up with it, we forget that this is largely a child-dominated industry.
Yeah,
to a degree. Like, a lot of this is meant to impress upon children, who are obviously much more easily entertained, and much more into, like, holy crap, this character can fly and it shoots beams and it's so cool.
Yeah, I would say the serious nature of comics has come as a part of fans becoming writers.
Yes.
And so it was important to them as a kid, so they're going to make it more important as they write it for the new generation of children.
I think the problem becomes when you get older and you start writing comics for adults because you got into comics for adults.
Yes.
Which is just like no, it needs to be really smart and super political, and it's just like we could do a little bit of that, but like, come on, guys.
Yeah, we still need the pew pew and the pow pow. So
Exactly.
Please. I remember reading, like I said, some of those pages with too many word bubbles in those Black Panther books of like there's a lot being said here.
And there's a lot of Black Panther. Like, Black Panther is an adult centric book because 3/4 of it is political intrigue.
Yeah.
And then there's a fight.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Somewhere down the line. And usually it's a political fight.
Yeah.
They're fighting for either political power or it's a refugee or some kind of stuff like
Every once in a while I was like, oh, Ulysses Claw is here to mess my crap up.
Yeah.
Let's punch his face. Okay, back to trying to deal with being a king.
Yeah, back to the United Nations.
Right. And there's some books that just are better for that. Captain America, it's
lined up for that. Yeah.
It's a socio-political character. You kind of have to, or else it's just Cap doing missions for S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, that's another thing. It's very important for each of these characters to find their own lane.
Yes.
Sometimes their own genre, but definitely their own lane, their own territory to manage. And Carol, for a very long time, just shared her domain with everybody. It was basically New York, and that's what it was. I think that this rebrand and then the volume that we were talking about, the Higher, Further, Faster, More, is a conscious effort to put her in space.
Yes.
And that is a wrinkle to that character that changes that character fundamentally from there going forward.
It also speaks to what's going on with the end of the first book, or rather with the first book we discussed, In Pursuit of Flight, where she is looking for a challenge and all of her earthly challenges are now mundane.
Yeah.
So go out into the cosmos and find what's out there.
Keep stretching that line.
Which is always usually stronger than what's on Earth, because if it's not, why are we writing about it?
Would you believe that when this happened, longtime fans were angry over the costume change and the positive adjustment to Carol's recently quite bleak outlook?
Yes, I would, because people are terrible, and there are still humans who hate the fact that Mary Jane Watson is no longer just the hot chick that Spider-Man wins.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just funny because, like,
there are still grown men who are upset that the Wonder Woman actress does not have large breasts.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah. It still happens. Turns out that people were upset that the feminist character was assigned to a feminist writer. But my girl, Kelly Sue DeConnick, promoted the entire book out of pocket and lobbied for like this new Captain Marvel. Mm-hmm. And fans started calling themselves the Carol Corp.
Yep.
And they legit people latched onto it, regardless of what the outcry was from a minority group, and that usually happens every single time, right?
Every single time.
People were warming up to this new
anything
character.
Other than white males, it's a travesty.
What's really cool is
Sometimes.
if you read that first issue of In Pursuit of Flight, in the letters column, there's fan art of people drawing Carol in the new outfit.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, somebody was digging it, you know?
Yeah. And at the time, like it's selling really well, to the point where it's like, when you consider what is allegedly or seemingly a small fan base when it comes to females and comic books, it can't sell that well if it's just women.
Yeah, it's absolute
on
madness.
some scale.
Yeah.
So it's like, this isn't nearly as hated as you guys think.
Exactly. We're gonna talk often about Sue the Comic because people say that, like, of all the creators who've written for Captain Marvel, she's the one who actively try to put a little bit of herself in it, try to give her agency, try to get past the stigma of the alcoholism, the rape, the rogue stuff, being attached to being attached to Marvel and stuff. And the reboot in general, it marked a major change in her career, but supposedly the criticism of her feminism sent her to go create Bitch Planet. So
I have not read Bitch Planet, but I've heard of it, and I was just like, I can't help but want to read a book named Bitch Planet. I was just like, where is this going? I must know.
No, definitely. Wow, though, 2012. That's not long ago.
No, it's not.
We often think that we're more sensible and more civilized now, but you look back and we haven't really gone too far. People still have problems with strong women in media.
Yes,
but I don't think that's gonna stop anybody from doing anything.
No,
and I actually hope that we get more, and I really hope that this film ends up being as good as it can be. And when you just hear Kelly talk about the character, you can feel
the reference.
Yes, and that's something that you don't see often now because characters get hot potatoed.
Yes,
it's like you hold on to him for a little bit.
There's that makes me sad in the sense that, like, when I was trying to get into the comic book industry, that sounds much different. When I was trying to get into reading comic books, and you look for a thing where it's like, so what's a run that's really good? And people will tell you, like, okay, read Daredevil by Brian Michael Bendis, and there's like a good lot of them. You know what I mean? Because he was the guy on that book for so long.
Yeah, or Chris Claremont's X-Men.
Chris Claremont's X-Men. I just finished all, like, 20-something volumes of Bendis on Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, man. That was a good run, though.
It was great. It is so rare to get that. For some people, not so much for me, but some people, it's like Scott Snyder on Batman. It is so rare now that you get one guy with one particular vision with this character for a long time. And
that's quality control as well.
Yes.
The longer that they're on it, the more they make sure that everything that they do stands true to the motivations from the beginning. Me
and you, when I just got here, we're talking about Detective Comics and the James Tynion run, and how at the end of the Tynion run on Detective Comics, it's like the entire Bat family has been seemingly decimated.
Yeah,
and we're all moving on from here, like and setting up the eventual Batman and the Outsiders book.
Right.
The next Detective comic book that comes out with James Robinson, Batwoman's still on the team. After we've already excommunicated her, and Cassandra Cain literally ripped the bat off of her chest.
Yeah, and then through her own volition, she was like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm just gonna go do my own thing."
You know what? Fine. I won't be part of your Bat family. Yeah. Me and my dad will go do our other thing over here.
Yeah, no.
James Robinson gets on the book. Batwoman's still on the team.
Back to status quo. But yeah, what you're saying holds true, because giving her to a creator that really cared about her and wanted to see her improve after years of being like squandered and underutilized and shelved and put in these weird relationships and stuff like that, it really takes a creator really wanting to make positive change to a character to do it. I mean, we we talk about constantly how important Frank Miller's take on Batman was, and how that changes everything.
Yeah.
Whether it's whether for bad or for good, it did definitively move that character's goalpost, and Kelly did that for this. And so when asked about like changing the status quo for Carol, she makes a point to say that she's not a mess. She's not a train wreck. She's an amazing person, an overachiever who was her own woman, accomplished and remarkable before she ever had powers. And now, even more so. I'm interested in the fact that she makes mistakes, that she's quick-tempered and a bit of a control freak. I like those things about her. So I guess I'm not entirely sure how to answer the question. I mean, if you read her wiki page and try to extract her character from her biography, she comes across as a walking red flag, like a woman in a constant state of identity crisis. And it's true. Who literally fights some versions of herself over and over and doesn't know who she is. But the magic of Carol is that when you read her, that's not who she is. That's not the woman I'm writing. The woman I'm writing is a long way from perfect, but she knows herself. She transcends her history. And that's cool. They don't tie her. I don't feel tied to, like, you basically, the only thing you need to know is that she has powers.
Yeah.
You don't need to know about her relationship with Marvel for the most part.
And that's more the reason why I think you don't need it in the movie.
Okay.
We can just write this character who's just like, she's a strong-willed military woman who had goals and had a whole new world thrust upon her, and she decided to take that on.
Yeah.
You know?
Literally, because we wanted to focus on not that volume of Pursuit of Flight, but the volume in 2014, the first volume of Captain Marvel, Higher, Further, Faster, More, written by Sadi Dudekanic with art by David Lopez. And
it was great.
Yeah, he was. And that what you speak of comes to fruition. And I wondered if this was done on purpose. In the first issue with Sadi Dudekanic taking on this character, she is having a heart-to-heart with Cap, right? About the moniker.
Yes.
And all that kind of stuff.
In Pursuit of Flight, yes.
And then in Higher, Further, Faster, More, she has this kind of talk with Tony. You know, like, is it her rubbing shoulders with, like, these big-name Avengers? Is this to add legitimacy to her as a character? I mean, it does make me kind of question, like, oh, I guess she really is down if people are down to,
Right. I mean, she's always kind of rubs shoulders with giants in her own way.
Yeah.
So, like, the beauty is that it's not forced. She's always had relationships with these people.
Yeah.
But now we get the sort of
kind of admiration, I guess. Then, right? It's not just somebody who comes to your birthday party that you know because they're on your friends list on Facebook.
Right.
This is someone that you're like
just friends from work.
Yeah. This becomes like a Carol, you should do this, or Carol, we want this for you.
Yes.
Which I think.
Especially from Steve Rogers, who's just like, I believe this is the best thing for you.
Yeah. And then later on, you get, Tony Stark gives her a job opportunity.
Yes.
He, speaking of relationships, how do you feel about Carol Danvers and your man Rhodey Rhodes? I feel like DC would have called the character Rhodey Rhodes.
I totally believe it. Although it makes me think of the old Ozzy Osbourne guitarist Randy Rhodes, so it's kind of weird.
And then you have Robert Robertson, I think is the character in Spider-Man.
Yes.
Robbie
Robertson.
Robertson.
It helps Stanley remember.
Yeah, golly.
It helps him remember names if you just did the alliteration.
Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah, but how do you think about Rhodey and Ms.
I thought that was interesting. And it kind of made sense in the sense that, like, they have shared life experience.
Okay.
Because they're both military.
Yes, this is true. And also a competitive nature because of it. Like,
yes.
The whole, like, being a best pilot.
Well,
stuff.
see, that's also the funny thing in the sense that, like, they're both pilots, they're both military, and they're also both legacy characters in their own right.
Yeah.
So they both have it. They both share this place in the world where they are seen as sort of under this other bigger thing.
And a need to be their own person.
Yes.
A need to craft their own identity. Although they are legacy characters, they have to be taken seriously as individuals who have their own autonomy and do their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and you can even see here and there, like, they're taking on a threat in this first issue, but it's literally just, it's a spaceship or whatever. Like, it's not the biggest. It's not Galactus. It's not, know, like, they're the roaming cops of New York while the Avengers are taking care of the real stuff.
Right.
And it isn't until Tony has a conversation. He shows up in because Miss Danvers is choosing to live in the Statue of Liberty. What do you think about that? Do you think they carry that over?
That's an odd choice. I feel like security would have something to say about that.
I agree. I feel like it's a little on the nose, but I mean, like.
But also, I immediately thought of Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. You don't want to be in there when that happens.
I'm just pretty sure that like if there's a soundtrack in the Statue of Liberty, that song is in it.
Definitely. I think it's a little bit on the nose, but as far as headquarters are concerned, it's kind of cool. Like living in the Statue of Liberty and stuff. She doesn't stay there long, because she ends up having a visitor. She ends up being visited by our man Tony Stark, who is like, hey, and I actually really love these series of panels because he's trying to have a conversation about with her, because they have found an alien.
Mm-hmm.
An alien has crash landed, and they're trying to figure out what they want to do with it. But I crack up because as they are doing this, Carol says like, "Do you mind if we multitask?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." So they're legit having this serious conversation about what to do with an alien refugee while stopping minor crimes.
Just taking down muggers.
Going around stopping minor crimes and still having a conversation.
Me and Hulk been running around fighting muggers, beating up thugs.
I love that promo because Hulk looks like, I don't know what this man's talking about.
No, we weren't.
Yeah, I don't know. I just met this guy in the car 5 minutes ago. I don't know what he's talking about. Yeah, they stop a bunch of muggers and stuff like that. And he eventually says, like, the planet that she was on got destroyed by the builders. And so a lot of those people are now on a refugee planet, but that planet is poison.
Right.
It has poison air in it. So we got to figure out what we're going to do with all this. But ultimately, I'm approaching you because this is such a big issue, and it'd probably be easier if we had an Avenger in space handling all that kind of stuff. Yeah. An Avenger's presence in space. And she's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense. And he's like, she's like, you should probably be a pilot. And he's like, yep, yeah. I'm thinking of the best pilot I know. And he's looking right in her eyes. He's like,
so the choice is obvious, right?
Yeah. And then he's like, yep. Tell Rhodey, ask him if he's interested.
It's like, what?
She like, yeah, screams at him. She's pissed. But ultimately, that seems to be the only thing she's thinking about. That idea, that job opportunity, the ability to go for higher, further, faster, more. And we see her relationship with an elderly woman named Tracy, who ends up playing a bigger part later on in the book.
Yes.
But ultimately, I think this issue comes down to this conversation that's had between Rhodey and Carol, where they are trying to figure out who they want to be, trying to figure out, like, he's flirting with her, and she's all like, I don't know, maybe we're not where we're supposed to be, where we should be, maybe it's you, it's me, doing all that kind of stuff there. And then she just literally says, I want to go to space. And he goes, for how long? And she goes, I don't know, maybe a year. And she goes, this is what you want? And he goes, you sure? And she goes, yes. And he goes, then you got to go. You got to go.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be many things for you, Carol Danvers. I'm never going to be the one that holds you down. Which I think is a very cool, mature line to have in a comic book. And also plays back into the whole higher, further, faster, more. She's getting ready to release her jets. And so you got to get rid of all the cargo that's holding her down.
Yes.
And if this relationship represents
that was quite the heavy analogy, but I will go with
it. Yes, literally. And she explains that just that emptiness of space, that void, just there's so many unanswered questions and so many risks, so many adventures there to have that as a young girl, she should just sit and look up and just wonder about what goes on there, and then she'll actively be able to take that all on. Mm-hmm. So, what do you think about that whole idea of having an Avengers presence in space? I mean, we have the Guardians of the Galaxy, and she bumps into them in the next issue.
The Guardians of the Galaxy is basically just on paper, the Guardians of the Galaxy are a freelance group of thugs just running around the space who are ready to take a job if they need it.
Yeah, that they're Guardians in name.
Yes,
that's their branding, but they're not really like the hierarchy of space justice.
No, they're barely space justice at all.
Space Justice. That sounds like a Netflix show.
Right.
Space Justice. The next issue opens up with her getting her own ship. She calls it Harrison. You think any reason for that?
I couldn't think of one.
I think Harrison Ford, but that wouldn't be. You just call it Han, right? Or Solo, or something like that. And
I would have thought it was funny if they just called the ship the Warbird.
That's
kind of heavy, but sure.
That actually would have worked. But she decides that, you know what, I'm going to take Iron Man out on his offer. I'm going to transport this young alien girl that we seemingly found on Earth to her planet. When she goes to go do that, she's stopped by a guy representing the group called, and man, I'm going to butcher this, the Haffenzai?
I think it's Haffensee.
Haffensee?
Yes. That's how I always read it. The Haffensee.
Okay. So the Haffensee apparently are guarding, various levels of space and stuff, and they're working for a secret person that they have not revealed yet. And that person says, because they were just going to kill Carol, straight up.
Yep.
And they're like, well, we don't want to kill an Avenger because we might get a bunch of crap put on us for that. Call our boss, ask him if we should kill the Avenger. They call the boss. The boss is like, yeah, kill the Avenger.
Yep.
They go try to destroy her, but she is ultimately saved by the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Who look nothing like the version you might be familiar with.
No, and before she is saved by the Guardians of the Galaxy, she does quite some maneuvering. She's a great pilot. We see her evade the fleet of Haffenzai before her ship is struck, and then she probably does excuse me. She probably does one of the most badass things you can do. She just leaves the ship entirely.
Yeah. Badass space helmet, just like...
She's like, you know what? I'm just going to take care of these guys on my own.
Yep.
And she tries her best, but when she's seemingly overcome, the Guardians of the Galaxy show up. And they're like, yeah, they give a little bit more exposition of like, oh, yeah, all the refugees from that planet that the builders exploded are now living on a planet that's poisoned, but they're also trying to move them from that poison planet elsewhere. And everyone's having this serious conversation. Rocket's like, there's a Flurkin on the ship. he seems to believe that, we probably should have said that in the first issue, we were introduced to Chewie.
Yes.
Probably named after Chewbacca. So maybe that Harrison Ford thing maybe have a little bit more truth to it than
fair.
Than I thought. But Chewie has his name changed to Goose in the movie. So this cat is around.
Yeah.
In this series of books,
I will say most adaptations are very faithful to pets.
Yeah, why is that? That's the thing you can't cross.
Yeah.
Keep it a pet.
It's like Supergirl has Streaky. She doesn't show up very much, but it's there.
Yeah, I mean, if they gave Carol Danvers randomly a Pomeranian, I don't think it would work. She needs the cat.
What's it? Titans gave us our first, I think it's our first Crypto?
Yeah. I think a first live action Crypto.
Yeah.
Unless they hid one in like Lois and Clark. Because
that's
that would be the place to hide it, because I've never seen it.
It would be if you just had a dog running around that show, because I don't remember it.
Yeah, exactly. But animals, man, talking about animals, Rocket does not like this cat.
No.
And believes it's a Flurkin, which I'm guessing is some sort of alien race of cats?
Cat-like beings?
Cat-like aliens, cat-looking like aliens. It's funny because this is a little bit of a tangent as well. Me and my friend Kevin, who's been on this show quite often, used to laugh because we used to say that cats are aliens. Like they have to be on their own wavelength because they seem to be on their, they seem to get each other and ignore the world in a way that only says that they have bigger things planned, and I assume that they're aliens. So
I always imagine it's like from what I've known, if you're having a terrible day or there's like all sorts of chaos happening around you, like a dog will get in the fight.
Yeah.
A cat's just like,
why'd you get yourself in that position? That's what the cat's gonna say.
You're dumb.
And I hope you're home to feed me when all this is said and done. Because if you won't, I'm just gonna scratch up all your stuff.
It's like, well, you've thrown up all over the floor. That stinks because I'm down here and I've got to smell that. I hope you have dinner.
But
if cats could talk, they would just judge you.
We gotta give Carol credit though, because she doesn't let Rocky wants to kill this thing.
Yes.
And she doesn't let it. She's like, I am not. It's a cat. It's not a Flurkin. I saw the X-rays. It's not a Flurkin. It never laid eggs. It's not a Flurkin. Stop asking if it's a Flurkin. Stop trying to shoot it. It gets to a point where it's such a hostile situation that they have to put the cat on a different ship, because Rocket is just going to try to kill it.
I love this panel of the cat just having these emoting eyes as it stares at Rocket Raccoon.
In judgment. Those are judgment eyes.
It's like, yeah, I'm her cat.
Wow. And I like how they use Flurkin sometimes with like my Flurkin cat.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, but in Rocket's haste of trying to shoot this cat, he accidentally shoots the sleeping pod in which the alien woman was in, and she wakes up. She notices that Star-Lord is the son of the man that is the king of the Galactic Empire.
I believe so, yes. Jason.
Yeah, Jason.
Yeah. It's kind of like all the Jean-Jeans and all that. It's Jason.
Yeah.
How can we change English names to sound like that?
Yeah, so there's no Ego in the comics. Ego is not Peter Quill's father. In the comics, Peter Quill's father is basically the Galactic
Jason
Emperor
of Spartax.
Yes, and he is not the greatest guy.
No, he is not. He's kind of a big jerk face.
And so here
who also constantly refers to Earthlings as backwater hicks.
Oh my god! And to be honest, Captain Marvel has had quite the run-ins with him prior to this run.
Yes.
So even though she knows that he's not the greatest, she's willing to listen to Peter Quill and try to figure out more about these planets and what's going down. Old girl though that just woke up is try to kill Peter Quill because she's like, well, if I can kill the Emperor's son, then I will have
I can make a dent.
I will have
I can hurt
some
him.
revenge on my people. But find out this girl's named Tick. We calmed the whole situation down because Gamora was going to cut her throat.
That'll calm any situation down.
Gamora was not playing with that. I like this moment here too because Tick just gets frustrated and escapes and steals Carol Danvers' ship. So now Carol's pissed. Before she was kind of like frustrated, a little ticked.
She's a little annoyed.
She's a little peppered.
Minorly inconvenienced.
You understand what I'm talking about? Like going to put your key in the hole and you drop your keys. Like now imagine if that key dropped in a grate. Now she is pissed, and she's like, not only did she take my ship.
I love the last line of the book. No one steals my flirking cat.
Yeah. Yep. My mother flirking cat. You can't have nobody take the cat. So she basically does some maneuvering, gets her way back onto her ship. Everything goes well. They go to the planet that they're from. I think it's called Torfa. And on Torfa, she meets the queen or the empress or some kind of monarch there, who basically says we've lived here for years and people are just getting sicker and sick. We don't have the transport to move everybody off planet.
No.
It's just impossible. There's too many people here, and some people are just resigned to die. They're like, this is
how it ends.
Yeah, this is how it ends. This is where I lived. This is what it's about.
I hope it ends with a Backstreet Boys performance.
When the builders were destroying the galaxy, the Avengers were very much a part of that. So they see Captain Marvel.
Oh, Infinity was a mess.
Yeah. So they see Captain Marvel,
which also had Jason.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, he's tied into all that. So Captain Marvel is basically a card-carrying member of the Avengers after the fact. This is damage control. So they're like, remember that thing you said you were going to help us with? No one else came. And now you're here, so I'm guessing you're tech support. And she's like, yeah, I'll help. I kind of want to help. And
it's kind of my responsibility.
It turns out that the planet is poisoned because of space vibranium.
Yes.
How do you feel about space vibranium? It would make sense because the meteor crashed.
I was gonna say,
space, right?
if it is still like I've never known what the comic origin of it was. I thought it was just cool metal that they had in other countries.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was a meteorite like the movie said it was.
Yeah, I believe it's a meteorite because the Great Mound exists in the comic.
Yeah.
And I assume that's just the
landing of the meteor.
Yeah, the big thing there.
So in that sense, I would imagine it's kind of like the nth metal is probably some out
everywhere.
there,
yeah,
somewhere.
Yeah, I know there's also Antarctic vibranium. There's all kinds of weird.
Really?
Yeah, there's all kinds of weird.
I'm not up on my Black Panther
levels and stuff like that.
But Black Panther's in space now, so yeah.
How do you feel about the political direction of this comic? We're seemingly talking about the downtrodden, the refugees, how sometimes big bureaucracies can just ignore whole cultures when it comes to atrocities put on them and what we're supposed to do.
So I liked it on two levels. One, I liked that even though I admittedly read them in reverse because I didn't get the connections, I'd read Captain Marvel before I'd read Infinity.
Okay.
But I like the idea that you can have this giant destructive event like Infinity,
Mm-hmm.
and we can go back and like, okay, there was fallout from that. It's our responsibility to deal with it.
Yeah.
Let's go deal with that.
Yeah, and Marvel's been having a conscious effort with that as well, with these Alpha and Omega issues.
Yes.
You know, it wasn't something that they always did.
No.
But it's the idea that
we would just destroy things and leave.
Yeah, you can't just, you know, dust your hands off and the event's over.
It's like, well, killed the big guy.
And now what? Now what's next? Something has to happen like right after this to get us back to normal. There is no just normal after this.
Who will build our schools?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly.
Leave.
Think of the children. And so, yeah, Captain Marvel is dealing with the fallout of this big event in a way that the other Avengers aren't. Like, their hands are washed of it. We help them. Right. They're helped.
The second thing for me is, it sort of reminds me of Star Trek. Okay. In the sense that, like, Star Trek wasn't about essentially like giant space battles. We'd occasionally have those.
Which were cool.
Yeah, you know, occasionally we have to, the Starship Enterprise occasionally has to fight the Borg or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it's also about helping other cultures who are having some sort of particular problem that can't be helped. In this sense, helping a bunch of refugees on a poisoned planet, you know, find some form of, how do you say, respite. And in this sense, that's what that is. We are attempting to help these people because we're out here in space and we have the power to on some level.
Yeah. And what great power, great responsibility, right?
Indeed. So I've heard.
Yeah. I feel like in the beginning of this, like especially when Carol's trying to do the diplomatic thing and just like ask the villagers about what's going on and like try to gauge how people feel about all this stuff. I feel like that clouds her head in the series. Like the idea like, well, maybe I should ask other people what we should do here.
Yeah.
Eventually she gets so pissed off that she's like, you know what? I'm going to handle this and I'm going to handle this on my own. And that's the clearest I've seen her head and the clearest I've seen her motivations and stuff. She just basically flies out and she said, there's like a little speech that she gives. And I thought it was like one of the coolest, like, because turns out that Mr. Jason gives the people 3 days to evacuate the planet.
Yes.
He's secretly hoarding
the
vibranium there. And he needs them off planet, not because
with no concern for the fact that the planet is not meant to house the vibranium and is poisoning everyone on it,
and no concern of the fact that there is no way in 3 days they will accumulate enough ships to get everybody off planet.
Right.
So, figuring out that, you know what, screw that, I'm not even gonna wait 3 days. Jason sends a fleet to just destroy. Dang, I keep forgetting the name of the planet, but Turdak, or something like that. And right when they're about to, you know, resign themselves to death, Captain Marvel shows up, explains the whole thing about the vibranium poisoning and how everyone's getting sick, and you know, gets to the bottom of how they've been mining it, probably against their will. And then a Galactic Federation or Galactic Empire ship shows up and tries to start arresting people, and Carol is not with it. Even though the Monarch surrenders, and seemingly Carol's like, nah, screw this. And she just gets out of her ship and gives the most badass speech I've ever heard, which is, my name is Captain Marvel. I'm an Earthling and an Avenger. But today I stand as one with the settlers of Torfa, who claimed this planet and its resources as they were freely given in the aftermath of the Behemoth disaster. They are a peaceful people, but I am a woman of war.
Right.
If you move against them, you move against me. I'm willing to die here today. For this cause, I have made my choice. Now make yours. And there's this splash page of her facing down an entire fleet of ships. Look at that. Look at how beautiful that is there. Look at that. What do you think about that moment?
Wow. Way to throw down the gauntlet.
You know?
Yeah.
And these heroes will always be defined by their ability to climb uphill.
Right.
You know, if we don't see them go through strife and choose to face strife head on, we don't see extra layers. We were saying before that she is in many ways overpowered. And in many ways, a normal, you know, street toughs ain't gonna make her feel the risk that she wants to feel.
Right.
But facing off against an entire intergalactic fleet,
That'll be some risk.
I think that'll do it, and it definitely puts the foot down on like, yeah, she's for real. She's the real deal. She's just as brave as any male character you've seen. She's just as vigilant as any male character you've seen. And she has to make the tough choices, just like any male character that you've seen.
I feel like we'll get a little bit of that, because there's that nice moment in the trailer where she's just flying through the sky and like smashing through ships.
She is. I think that she is about done in that moment. I think that she is just, because I believe that
everyone dies.
If you don't have Marvel there, I think that what the issue is going to be is she's going to feel played against by both sides.
Yes.
And I think she's going to get to a point where she's like, screw both sides, and she's just going to get through everybody. But yeah, she faces off against the fleet, and even though she's able to take on a lot of them, she gets some help by the inhabitants of the planet, and they're able to take down some more ships. Let me see here. I'm looking for a particular part.
Is it the character Tick?
No, the one that she's like doing this. I like the music that old girl plays. There's a character named Jackie.
She's got a whole playlist.
Yeah, she's constantly trying to play music and stuff like that. But yeah, the reinforcements arrive. They help Carol Danvers and the
Also, at the same time, yeah, there are several of the refugees on the planet who are staging their own
coup, kind of, right?
Their own revolt on the ground level to buy time for Captain Marvel.
And then they've decided that the best way to tackle this situation is to have Captain Marvel fly so fast and so strongly that she destroys the center of where the vibranium is.
Yes.
Basically destroying it all and making it all in there. I think she just pushed it deeper into the planet.
So it would take them years to mine it. To mine it further.
Yep. And so, Jason does one of his like villain monologues where he's like, "All of you guys are useless. I hate all of you. I'll kill you all." And then Carol's like, "Well, we just passed you into every planet, so now everyone knows that you don't care about anyone. So have fun dealing with that." Which I thought was also pretty cool.
Because a monarch who has been discovered to have been killing children does not stay a monarch for long.
Exactly. Which I thought was some pretty deep stuff there. But Carol decides to take off, and she saved the day. She saved the planet, and it makes it be considered small scale because we don't know these people.
Right.
But it was smart to give her own adventure where the stakes were literally on her shoulders.
I love the very last panel where she's listening to a playlist given to her by one of the characters.
Yeah.
And she just has a picture of her with all these people she just met.
Yeah.
Attached to her ship. And it's just like, that's a moment Captain Marvel gets to hold on to. I met these good people and I helped them and everything worked out.
And what's awesome is that that's a moment that she wouldn't have had she not chosen to go to space.
Right.
Had she not chosen to help out. Had she not chosen to take more risks. Had she not chosen to go out there on her own. And it's rewarding. It's meant to show you the rewards that are taken by unapologetically being yourself and going out and taking the risks that you feel like you are born to go out and take. I believe that's the end of the first volume, but we have to talk about the next issue of this comic. Because in the next issue of this comic, she returns to she was given a ship by the people of Torfa, and she decides she's gonna go back to go get her cat and go back to the Guardians. Tick is on that ship, even though she thought Tick was still being on Torfa.
Yep.
But they end up meeting up with the Guardians, and we're back to the Flurkin talk again. We're back to killing the cat. Rocket has programmed the ship to speak cat because she think he's trying to get it to translate what the cat's saying, but it's not possible. So now it's just speaking cat. And they're yelling, they're screaming, they're shooting. So all this stuff. There's an attack on her ship. No one knows what's going on. Push comes to shove, and it's revealed that her cat has laid a bunch of freaking eggs and is a Flurkin, is an alien.
Is in fact a Flurkin.
An alien species. I say that we had to cover that because I do think it's funny. I do think it's one of the things that people know about modern Captain Marvel is that her cat is an alien.
Yes.
What's the over under that they do that in the
probably not likely.
Not likely?
Not the laying a bunch of eggs part. I don't expect that.
Who would identify it as a Flurkin? Yarnrog, maybe?
I would expect you don't get that until Endgame.
That's what I'm saying. I would hold it off until Endgame until Rocket sees it.
Yes. I definitely don't think you will get that. She'll have the cat when they show up in Endgame, and it's like, it's a fly!
Yeah, put that on my wish list, up there with Rocket meeting another raccoon. And being
Finally.
and being like, oh, I get it.
That's what people keep talking about.
Yeah.
And then just being a jerk and
like
going, I look nothing like that. No.
Oh, no, the other
I
way?
need him to say I look nothing like that.
You think this thing looks like me? Ain't nothing but me, like me but me.
Yeah. Go sing with Lady Gaga.
Yeah, so Kelly definitely had a direction for this character, an agency for this character, and I like this character.
Mm-hmm.
I have to sadly admit, I have stopped reading Captain Marvel. Have you kept up with any of the stuff prior, post Civil War II, where she has a bigger role?
I kept up with the Mighty book.
The Mighty Captain Marvel?
Yes.
I legit heard from Marvel, I think yesterday, that there's a Captain Marvel Mightier and Braver.
That's a one-shot.
Oh, I was about to say, what is going on?
That's a one-shot.
You're confusing me.
Yeah. I read it. It was alright. It was in and out. But, like, that's just a one-shot book. It's nothing, like, you have to expect to hear from for very long. She gets an adventure that's done at the end of the book.
Okay.
Yeah. I tried to keep up with the Mighty Captain Marvel book, and I read a little bit of the life of Captain Marvel, but at that point I was just like, the movie is so close, and the new line is going to be reflected by that movie to a degree, even though technically the new book's already started. So, like, I just thought I'd hold off on that for a bit.
Okay.
Especially since I have a habit of soundtracking, so once that comes out, I'll do it.
Do you want to explain to our fine listeners what new twist was added in the Mighty Captain Marvel as per her origin?
That was the life of Captain Marvel.
Oh, that was the life of Captain Marvel.
Yes, the life of Captain Marvel, in which they have decided to add the interesting retconny wrinkle that her mother was part Kree, and that the Kree DNA was inside her the entire time.
Yeah. Which, I mean,
kind of takes a little bit of weight off the entire thing.
But if you do that, you definitively do not need
Marvel.
Yes.
This is also true.
And so...
And for an entire generation of people that will come into the book probably without Marvel at all,
yeah,
you never have to reference back to this character. Not completely, anyway.
I feel kind of bad for Marvel.
even though they just did not that long ago when they put out Generations.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah. What do you think about this new direction, though? Do you think it's gonna take a foothold? Like, you think it's gonna?
I want to believe it does. The new book is written by Kelly Thompson, who I enjoy.
Okay.
So
the art looks good.
Yes, the art looks good. I enjoy Kelly Thompson's work. I love Kelly Thompson on the Hawkeye book.
Okay.
Not Clint Barton, but
Bishop.
Kate Bishop.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another legacy character.
Yes. But one they've handled pretty well.
I've heard.
Yeah.
I've heard.
I haven't read all her Young Avengers stuff, but I read some of it. I love Kelly Thompson's work on Kate Bishop Hawkeye. I heard her Jessica Jones stuff is pretty good, but it's like a digital only book that was kind of kind of boxes you in.
I had some of those like digital only comics, and they're kind of weird the way that they structure the.
Oh no, those are like the Infinite comics.
Yeah.
And they are really meant to be like a cinematic experience. The way it pops onto the book.
Yeah,
onto the screen.
Sometimes it'll just be the art, and then you'll hit it again, and then the word bubbles will come up.
Yeah,
and the way they want you to read it.
It's almost like a YouTube experience that you have control of.
Yeah,
like those motion comics on YouTube.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
It's just that, but like it's not a timed experience.
Okay.
But no, this is just like a digital comic book.
Okay.
I've heard it's pretty good. I haven't been able to read it, but I haven't gotten around to reading it. But I'll make some time for it. I got a lot of stuff on the docket here.
Yeah, push came to shove, and they created Civil War II, and they kind of made her into a heel. They kind of made her into a bad guy.
Oh God, they made her into a.
I mean, she ultimately was the same kind of bad guy that Tony Stark was, which is a little bit sympathetic. Like they were just doing what they thought was right. Like there was no glowing red eyes for Captain Marvel and like mustache twirling, and they'll never know what I'm getting up to. She was
that was Cap.
legit at the same time.
That was Steve-O.
I can never look at that the same way again. I can never look at that the same way again, knowing that during that entire very trying time of Civil War II, he's doing.
He's setting the whole thing up.
He's doing Hydra Cap stuff. Yeah,
he's setting the whole thing up. He is manipulating Ulysses' visions.
Don't they lock her out of space or something like that? When that happens, they lock her in like they lock the Earth down.
Yes, they are working on a planetary shield idea, and so Steve.
Of course. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, her and like
the planetary
Stark and stuff,
shield.
We're coming with a planetary shield, and then they put the planetary shield up so that no one can come back down.
Yeah, because Evil Steve had a Chitauri queen egg hidden somewhere on the planet, knowing that Chitauri will come for it because hive mind.
Yep.
So once the ship showed up, it's like, oh, okay, we've got a space problem. There's a whole horde of these ships coming at us, and then
they sent everyone to space. Mm-hmm. Then they locked the door.
Yep. Everyone, go deal with that. They spent all their strongest space cosmic characters out there. Fantastic. Lock it down.
Yeah, they locked the door.
No one can get back in.
Poor Captain Marvel. Did you find her character to be uncharacteristic in Civil War II?
I just found it to be foolish. Like. They made her the brutish, how do you say, 1% chance Bruce Wayne and BVS character, where it's just like, the entire thing focuses around the very first tragedy, which is, we got told this thing,
Rhodey?
Essentially.
Yeah.
We got told this thing was happening, right? So it's like, we had a vision, Thanos was coming. We went after Thanos before he can get here. Mm-hmm. Rhodey dies in the conflict. So the argument always ends up being, well, if we waited for Thanos to get here, maybe Rhodey's alive, but how many other people die?
Exactly. What is the effects of changing things?
That's the one argument nobody can really get around, and that Captain Marvel has based her whole stand on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the argument that, we should stop these things before they happen based on this one dude's potentially not correct visions.
Well, it's the idea that majority of people, when something humongous happens, whether it's a mass shooting or a hijacking of a plane, people say, why couldn't that have been stopped before it happens? But to do
thus people become hyper-corrective.
Yeah, but to do that, you would then have to take cues that you probably wouldn't normally and start making assumptions that you probably wouldn't normally to ensure that you stop everything before it happens. Right. You have to overcorrect, like you said. You have to overanalyze, and just have a general lack of care to the normal human person and their ability to redeem or change their mind or any of that kind of stuff.
So now, like the moment that there is a vision that Miles Morales might kill Captain America, Carol is ready to arrest him on the spot.
Yes. Yep. And that puts her in direct conflict with Tony Stark and half of the Marvel Universe, basically.
Yep.
And that paints her in a kind of a weird light. So she's back maybe a little bit in character rehab, where they're trying to shed the foolishness of her hard-headedness.
Good old Bendis.
And get back to the basics. Last but not, there's two things I want to talk about before we wrap this up. One of them is Miss Marvel.
Yes,
Kamala Khan. Because once Carol, became Captain Marvel, that Miss Marvel moniker didn't just disappear.
No,
it was given to a young Muslim girl, a young Muslim Inhuman.
Is it given to her? Or does she? I think she.
Well, she gets the Inhuman. She.
No. Yes.
She Terrigen Mist stuff.
Yes.
happens, and her powers get activated.
I assume she took on the name Miss Marvel in a moment of hero worship.
Yes, she was a humongous fan of Miss Marvel, and she ultimately gets that fanhood redeemed when Carol actually sits and talks with her and is all like, "You're cool," and you can have it, and all this other kind of stuff.
Completely validates the entire thing.
And through Miss Marvel, through Kamala Khan, you're able to get more admiration for Captain Marvel, a.k.a. Carol Danvers, but in the same sense, when Kamala loses respect for her in Civil War II, you also then lose respect for Carol because you're like, wow, look how far the mighty have fallen. And it kind of sucks. But
But by the end of Secret Empire, because Captain Marvel was out there defending the planet against the Chitauri, and comes back in to help fight off the Hydra Empire.
Yep.
They come into the mighty Captain Marvel, making her like, Captain Marvel's the most popular hero on the planet.
She saved everybody, y'all.
She's literally like in that Norman Osborn position. She's like, we saw Norman shoot the gun.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
He's the guy.
Oh wow, huh? Well, a lot of it feels like they've set the mold and they want her to grow into it.
Yes.
And I hope she does. I think the character can reach great heights. No pun intended.
Yes.
But I'm also,
it can be redeemed. Anything can be redeemed.
I'm also wondering what's the over under on this Kamala Khan in Miss Marvel.
What do you mean?
Do we see a baby being born at the end of the 90s?
Oh Jesus Christ!
And then she'd be what? 20?
I don't think they'd let.
I
don't think they'd let that happen.
I mean, because we're gonna get that film. That's a demographic that we have
yes.
to. Have to.
You're referring to the movie.
Yes. Do we get a Kamala Khan
I will be spending that movie looking for small brown girls the entire time.
Yeah. And I want it, man. I heard that the book was good. I heard that a lot of people like it and really gravitate towards that character.
I don't know if I don't think they'll reference it that much for like the 90s.
Yeah.
Also because like the timeline we're in, she'd be an adult, and I'm not sure that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Is she still a teenager?
No.
Yeah.
There's that weird Marvel timeline of people.
That sliding timeline.
People being stuck at something forever.
Yeah.
She was with the Champions, wasn't she?
Yes.
And they're all kind of like young.
Yeah.
Heroes.
Yeah, young Nova.
That's what I'm saying.
Miles Morales.
I think Captain Marvel takes place like in 1995 or something like that. So
right.
It would still be, that would be too many years. It'd be 5 plus 19 is 24. It'd be 24.
Yeah. I don't think we'll do that. I think either Endgame or the sequel, you'll get like some reference to the fact.
Or when she helps defeat Thanos, you'll see a little girl cut out her own domino mask or cut out her own star thing and be like,
or a little cardboard helmet.
There you go. Yeah.
No, yeah, definitely.
And that would make a lot more sense than in Man of Steel when it's small Clark Kent is walking around with a cape.
Why are you doing this?
Even though he never saw anybody in a cape, because Superman is the first man in a cape. Anyway, I just had to get it out.
No, he's not though.
He's one of the first men in the cape.
Not universe.
Who was the first man in the cape in that universe?
That man's been doing it for 20 years.
No, but now when he's that age, they're roughly the same age. So when he's doing that, Ben Affleck is in like a well somewhere, because he's always falling down wells. That Bruce Wayne.
I guess so.
But last but not least, I want to talk about Kelly Sue DeConnick.
Like Batman's in his 40s when Superman's in his 20s.
It's a weird thing. Yeah, if he was doing it for 20 years, Man of Steel makes it seem like he had just started doing it. Let's give it 3. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Now that. Anyway,
like Superman's like the last superhero in that movie.
No, but it's true.
In that timeline,
what you're saying is true, because Aquaman,
Wonder Woman's already happened.
At least the idea of Atlantis and all that stuff exists way before Aquaman shows up.
Technically, the first superhero is Wonder Woman.
Oh my gosh! But yeah, people were wondering whether or not Kelly would have any influence on the film.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out, on the set of Captain Marvel last May, executive producer Jonathan Schwartz spoke about how the Conic's Carol Danvers influenced the upcoming film, and she was she's basically a consultant on the film.
Hey, listen, if you're gonna talk to anyone about Captain Marvel,
you understand? Don't ask that guy who got her all pregnant.
No, not at all. I want Kelly right next to him, just like working the script.
There's a run of comics by Kelly Sue DeConnick that really gets to the core of the character in a way that we thought really made us want to translate to the screen, says Schwartz. She really understood Carol and really made her modern and vibrant and cool in a way that she hasn't always been written as. Luckily, DeConnick consulted on the film, even speaking to Larson about the role. And Kelly's actually been working with us on the movie and has been very helpful and consulted with us, and shot a cameo the other day, which hopefully you guys can all pick out. Sadly, I do not know how Sue DeConnick looks.
Short redhead woman.
Redhead?
Yes.
I would have took it for blonde. I thought that's why they went all...
No.
All right, Kelly.
When you look it up on the laptop, she's kind of distinct looking.
Okay.
So you might be able to catch her.
she kind of had a vision for Carol that leaned into her Air Force roots in a really cool way and leaned into the power of her character and an inspirational nature at the core of Carol that we all thought was super cool. And that seems to be also a focus. We see a lot of that Air Force imagery, a lot of that, military stuff going down. And
a little bit of Monica Rambeau.
With everything there, everything seems to be set up for another great blockbuster Marvel movie.
Yes.
Do you have any fears for this movie that me and you will be reviewing on the very next issue of
I have my concerns, but not like a narrative one, but mostly just like I really want this to work because this is so important to the next I don't want to use the term phase anymore, but the next steps that this genre takes. You know? We are essentially moving out of a new era. It's like watching your favorite baseball team change.
Yeah. And being told, this new guy's though, he's great.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you won't miss any of your old ones, because this new guy,
right,
he's gonna knock it out of the park.
Right. It's still the Yankees, but it's a different Yankee team, and they'll be just as good.
You think we're gonna get LeBron Jordan comparisons with this? Do you think we're gonna get Marvel DC comparisons with Wonder Woman?
There's already plenty of those, and that's so stupid.
Yeah.
There's already...
Like, she's a girl, and she's a girl. So, it's like, come on.
We have to pit them against each other.
Do more past that, yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes. There's a whole song on one of one of those YouTube shows I watched that has one of my favorite YouTubers, Tamara Chambers, singing a song about how two women can't be friends. We must pit them against each other.
Right, yes. They're impossible. They can't. If they're in the same room, they must hate each other.
They must be at least frenemies.
Yes, it's absolutely ridiculous. We look like we're getting some Monica Rambeau, though.
That's right, Monica Rambeau,
a.k.a. Captain Marvel, also Captain Marvel adjacent. Marvel.
There's also another name for it, and I
Spectre?
forgot. No.
That's what an S, though.
Yes, it's killing me because I actually thought the name was pretty cool.
I thought it was Spectre. Monica Rambeau.
No, Spectre, because Spectre is what Lantern turns into, right? No, not Lantern.
No, Spectre is
Spectre is a completely different character, actually.
Yeah, Spectre. I just typed in the wrong thing. I was supposed to type in Monica Rambeau. Yo, Monica Rambeau, African-American woman, superhero, imbued with the powers of Captain Marvel. She took on the mantle for some time. If you actually read Secret Wars, she is the Captain Marvel at that time.
Oh, is she?
Yeah. I was like, wait a minute.
There's so little of Secret Wars I remember.
Yeah. Did you get that name?
What did she have? I think I remember. Oh
yeah, so she didn't wear the whole. She didn't do the whole green and the white Kree thing, and she didn't do the blue.
No, she did not.
I think she did straight up black and white, and that headband, that iconic headband. Sometimes she'd have a. Sorry. Sometimes she'd have a afro. Sometimes she had some dreads. So this is what I got from Miss Rambeau. I got notable aliases: Captain Marvel, Photon, Pulsar,
and Spectrum.
Yeah, Spectre.
Spectrum.
Yes. I got Spectre and Spectrum. I got Daystar.
Oh, Jesus.
Spectre, Lady of the Light, Monica Marvel, Sun Goddess, and Spectrum.
Jesus. Okay.
That's a lot of... Well, I mean, come on. As confusing as Carol.
Yeah, that's fair.
Check that out. She's Captain Marvel in 1982. Photon in 1996. Pulsar in 2005. Spectrum in 2013. Holy hell.
Okay, yes, I remember her as Spectrum from the Infinity books and and her palling around with Carol.
And she's they seem to be showing her, or at least maybe a descendant of hers in the movie. You think that's straight up Monica, or is that like in the film? Or there's a Rambeau in there.
I think it's a mother, yeah.
Probably her mom.
Yes. Yes, her someone a pilot friend of hers is named Maria.
Rambeau?
Yes. And Monica is a child.
Oh, that makes sense. See, they are setting up.
Monica's a child
and Monica has to fight Kamala, and then everything goes like Kill Bill 3.
Oh,
all
God.
Set up. We're all good.
Yes, Monica is a child friend. Monica is a child of Carol's friend, Maria Rambeau, from the Air Force.
Yeah.
So we plant the seeds for Monica Rambeau.
But so they are going past the legacy, and that's smart. The character doesn't have a bunch of great history to go on, but the little bit of good history it has, might as well use it to its advantage.
Absolutely. And Carol even has her own like flight team, which I wonder if that's going to make an appearance. Does she just show up by herself?
Oh yeah, that also makes sense. Starfleet?
Or Alpha Flight.
Oh yeah, Alpha Flight. But there's a team she's on with the Kree, Star or something. I want to say Starfleet. But I think the biggest thing, and there's no way for us to talk about this because there's no information on it yet. The biggest thing majority of people will be sitting and watching this movie for is the connection to not only Endgame but Infinity War.
Yes.
How do we get to a point where Nick Fury is hitting a beeper in a case of emergency to get this overpowered superhero to come and help? And what makes Nick think that she can help in this instance? What in the film that we're going to watch next week is going to inform us to why Nick would think that she is somebody to call in for this? Not the Chitauri invasion, not the Ultron, stuff coming down, not the Shield is all Hydra now, none of that stuff, but specifically for this. And I'm interested in seeing what that is. I'm interested in
My guess, if they use the power set that she has in the books, is that on some ridiculousness, she is able to absorb the energy of the Infinity Gem.
Oh my gosh, that's way too much. But I could see them doing that.
If something's gonna beat up Thanos,
what do you
Iron Man got like a drop of blood?
What do you think is going to be the cause of? And then, this is just crazy speculation. We have absolutely no idea to know any of this stuff. But I think it's fun to do this on these on these shows. What do you think is the cause for Nick Fury losing his eye?
The cat.
The cat.
It's the Flurkin.
A lot of people pointing at the goose, man. A lot of people pointing
at the
Flurkin. But I feel like it can't be the cat, can it? I feel like they're gonna do a lot.
It's got 3 scratches.
Is it gonna be a situation like with Misty Knight in Luke Cage where there's constantly
wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, there's constantly gonna be like hints to him might be losing an eye, or like he's gonna be looking down the barrel of his gun, and somebody's gonna be like, "Hey, man, that's how you lose an eye."
Have you ever watched Harvey Birdman: Attorney at Law?
Yes.
Have you seen the constant references to when like this is how he lost his eye? No.
Oh yeah.
Like the one thing with the paperclip flying toward his eye.
That's his boss.
And it hits his and it hits his mouth.
That's what it's going to be. It's going to be a bunch of like he's going to trip and like get like a foot away from a knife and be like, "Whoo, I almost lost my eye there." It'd be crazy if that ever happened.
It's the cat.
Oh my god. It's the cat. You're saying it's the cat?
It's the Flurkin.
My last crazy theory. I always feel like we got to do a crazy one on here. So if it's wrong, we deny it outright, and if it's right, we champion it to the day we die. And it's that she's a Skrull, y'all. I'm gonna keep saying it. I'm gonna hold on to it, but I'm gonna delete all this footage.
Is there a shirt
yet? Turns out I'm making it. I'm working on it. I'm legit working on it. It literally just says she's a Skrull, y'all, right now on it. But I'm thinking of getting
on the back of the shirt. You have to put the date of the podcast where you said it.
I'm thinking about putting one of those Skrull faces on it, but I'm working on it. And the odds are there will be a female Skrull, so the shirt will work anyway eventually. I'm digging that.
I would like to see them work in what's her face? Spider-Woman.
My biggest actual theory that I want to happen is I want when Carol shows up to show up with as many cosmic characters as they can possibly fit. I think in between 1990 and 2019,
some of that Blue Marvel,
some of that Goliath, some of that Nova, some like
what's her name?
It's
Quasar.
Quasar. It's been 15, 20 years now. She should have met a bunch of people.
Yeah,
and it would be cool. Like, and then you could do it whole cloth again because now you got to reintroduce all these people. You don't have to reintroduce them in Endgame. It could just be her crew. But then you spin everybody out, and everybody.
I lived in a dream world where they'd cast like Denzel as Blue Marvel because he's kind of old anyway.
I like that.
Denzel would probably never lower himself to such things as superhero movies.
Man, Denzel got to break that superhero thing. Leo DiCaprio got to break that superhero thing. There's still a class of actor holding out.
A bit of a classism.
Yeah, there's still a class of actor holding out. On the
fact that they got Robert Redford was.
I mean, it's getting crazy. They got Halle Berry, man. Twice. They got it twice. It happens.
Yeah.
Gary Oldman. You know what I'm saying? They got some people.
But Gary Oldman's like not making a superhero movie. like Batman.
Every day on set he will say, "This is not a superhero movie, right?" And they're like, "No, don't worry about it."
Why is that man in a mask?
Don't worry. You don't watch Zorro? Come on.
But then again,
Classics.
like, does Gary get to talk about that with the roles Gary's taken?
No. Gary, I mean, with stuff like Fifth Element and all that kind of,
right,
and playing vampires, I'm pretty sure that he's
every accent known to man.
I'm pretty sure that he's down for all that. Yeah.
Same reason you're pretty sure, like Ben Kingsley's gonna take it. Why not? He's gonna dress up as whatever you ask him to.
Yeah, that man had too much fun on that thing there. Bring back Terrence Stamp. Is Terrence Stamp still alive?
No.
The way you said that, like you should obviously know that Terrence Stamp is dead. He was in a lecture, bro. I had to cover that last week. It was terrible. He was in it.
I don't think he is.
You're gonna be so upset when you find out. I'm gonna write a letter to Terrence Stamp and say, a friend of mine thought you were dead. I think you should call him and let him know that you are fully alive.
I will kneel before Zod.
And if you guys are alive next week, join us again for the Captain Marvel review. We'll be seeing here, reviewing it all, super spoiler filled. I hope I'm in a good mood next week. I hope we're here just like cannot wait to gush about this film, because if not, I don't know what it says, man. This is the movie right before probably the biggest movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
In my fandom,
it's not Ant-Man and the Wasp, where it doesn't matter.
Right. In this particular fandom, and even Aquaman didn't have stakes on the DCEU.
No,
this is its own film. This is the next step for that entire pyramid that they're building.
This is the lead into, into the credit stinger that's supposed to go to the big movie.
Yes, that happens
So, like, these 3 steps are super connective and incredibly important.
Yeah, we're already in March, so next month is... What? I'm about to have a heart attack.
Can we not do that?
I'm about to have... Matter of fact, just make sure you're here next week as a part of the Major Issues podcast. And if you guys, if you've done listening to this episode and you're wondering, how the heck can I just hold on till next week? We have an entire library of episodes covering all kinds of things to do with comic books and the comic book media. And if you want to be able to do that, first of all, I want to thank you for listening to this podcast. But if you want to listen to some of our back catalog, just search for the Major Issues podcast wherever podcasts are found. That's Podbean, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, the Apple Podcast app, available on any iDevice. You already pre-installed as a podcast app. Just search Major Issues Podcast. But the actual quickest way to find us is to go straight to Google us, Oogle us. Major Issues Podcast. We'll be the first ones to pop right up. And like I said, we are available all over. We're available on YouTube. I think it's called Last FM. I'm finding all these other weird tangential sites that are putting up our podcast. But our numbers are growing. Our episodes are growing. So make sure that you join, like, share, and subscribe. And if you can rate us and review us on iTunes, it's the quickest way for us to grow as podcasters and find out what you guys like, what you don't, and where we can go into the future with this. Because I've been to the future. No, I haven't said this in a while, but I've been to the future, and the Major Issues podcast becomes the latest, greatest thing to talk about comics and comic book media. So I know we get there, but we're gonna get there with your guys' help. So thank you so much for those who've already listened, who've already rated and reviewed. But for the rest of you guys, go ahead, join in on the fun. And if you guys want to reach us directly, matter of fact, if you guys see Captain Marvel and want to get your opinions read on air, try to reach out to us at facebook.com/comicbookclick, Instagram at comicbookclick, or use the hashtag comicbookclick to talk about the latest, hottest, and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media.
And now I'm going to have to not go on my social media for about a day or two.
There you go. Don't forget at Major Issues CBC. I believe you also have a Twitter, sir.
I have. It is Rebirth GT, where I talk about occasionally comic books, wrestling.
Exactly. No, get on that. Because that is going to be absolutely amazing. I don't think anyone's going to see it too early, but I hopefully after we've seen it, we got a bunch of people in the Clique to talk to about it. And if not, you're going to get our super spoiler-filled takes next week. So we are back on the road to Endgame officially. Whew, this is going to be a hell of a ride. My name is George Serrano, a.k.a. The Don.
My name is Gregory Thomas, a.k.a. GT Rebirth.
And this has become your essential Captain Marvel pre-movie listening experience. Your Captain Marvel 101 course as brought to you by Comic Book Click. So remember, whether or not you have a myriad of terrible origin stories, whether you think that it's cool to wear a long sleeve shirt with underwear out there, and a domino mask. Don't do the domino mask stuff, people. Whether you've been blasted by the psychic magnetron, whether someone took all your powers to put you in a coma. I'm feeling worse and worse for Carol as I'm saying these things.
Yeah, it's been bad.
Matter of fact, whether you're a badass Air Force captain who's out there breaking records, breaking hearts, and breaking
whole armadas of ships.
Destroying whole armadas of ships. Remember that we are the Clique. You're flirking awesome. And you, yes, you are worthy.